Welcome, everyone, to TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. I'm your host, TJ, obviously, and with me here, as always, is the Grumpy Old Man. They say there is no shame in his game because he is always the same.
That's me.
Now, Grumpy, and for those of you who are new listeners, number one, this is a twice-a-week sports podcast that occurs every single Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and every single Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, as an added bonus, anytime there's large sporting events like the NFL playoffs, the college football playoffs, we go live during those big, large sporting events there as a little live stream, as a little treat. Grumpy and Old Man and I have a great time doing it.
With our eclectic delivery.
Absolutely. And if you're new to the channel, number one, we invite you to stick around a while. We invite you to subscribe on YouTube, to like on Facebook, and to follow on Twitter, Grumpy Old Man. That being said, what a week. What a week. What a bombastic week in the world of sports, Grump.
Yeah. I know we're going to be talking about two main topics today, and one of them is kind of, well, it's a big deal for me, but also kind of catty, back and forth, little mean girl high school stuff going back and forth on one thing, and then something pretty serious. So yeah. I don't know which one you want to tackle first.
What we're going to start off with, and now this was all the news, and this was all the stories surrounding the NFL. What would you say on Monday, probably in Tuesday of this week, whenever Tuesday. Brady officially, Tuesday when Brady officially retired. Ladies and gentlemen, Patriot fans were a little upset that in his little good eve or goodbye farewell comment and statement, he didn't happen to thank too much of the Patriots organization through that.
Right. He just put out I don't even think he ever used the word retirement. So maybe he'll be back. Who knows? Doubtful.
But that's wishful thinking, Grump.
He did mention everyone in the Tampa Bay organization, down to the janitor, the person who drives the Uber for him to the game, everybody. But there was nary a mention of the New England Patriots.
And when you're talking, just look at it. His Tampa Bay Buccaneers teammates over the last 2 years. I love you guys. And we'll give a quick little read of it, right? He talks about the teammates, how they're so important there to him. He talks about Lynch. He talks the Glazer family. He talks about a lot of
fans.
Yep, the fans. Oh, you guys are so important. Yeah, thank you, Jason Litch. And he goes, he talks about Bruce Arian, thinking Bruce Arian. He just keeps going on and on. It's like you would imagine based off of this release, it looks like, kind of typed up a few notes that he was a Tampa Bay Buccaneer for like 20 years. Wouldn't you, Grump?
Yeah, he's still hurt how it went to every single Buc staffer and employee. Everybody, game day employees, the guy who drives the bus and picks up the people at the offsite parking, everybody. I want everybody included.
Oh my God.
All right, I understand why you thanked Alex Guerrero, but yes, everybody. Then his family, every Michigan, everybody. So yeah.
I'm thinking Michigan. I'm thinking my high school coach. I'm thinking my high school PE teacher. I'm thinking the elementary school teachers too.
He didn't thank Michigan. He just acknowledged them, but he didn't even acknowledge New England. And he probably went like this. Well, because hey, let's be honest, you're seeing 8 panels on Instagram. That's a lot of panels, I'm assuming.
Yes, that is.
I don't have Instagram. It seems like an awful lot. Okay.
It's not like he typed up a quick note where he said, "Thanks so much, guys. Thank you, everybody who's made a huge impact. I'm very grateful for the impact you've all had on me. There's too many to list, but thank you so much. I've enjoyed the fans across all of TB12 Nation, whatever the hell." It wasn't like a short little one blurb. He typed out this for a while. I mean, this is not something he did over a 30-minute, like, hey, I'm eating breakfast. I'm going to type this out over breakfast. No, this was done over a few hours, I'd have to assume. No?
Well, he also did it, the night before. He does a podcast, the Let's Go podcast with Jim Gray. And Jim Gray asked him about this. He's like, well, I haven't decided yet. And then the next morning by 10 o'clock, this was out. So, I mean, maybe they, pre-recorded the podcast. I don't know. But all right. We knew Saturday he was retiring, right?
Yes.
Somebody let the cat out of the bag and he got pissed. That much is for certain. Did he think maybe New England did it? I don't know. I think the biggest thing is he's still butthurt that New England did not let him go out in New England. He never wanted to leave the Patriots. Never did. And Belichick showed him the door, and Robert Kraft did not stick up for him, and he thought that he would. He sided with Belichick. Well, we see how that's turned out. Belichick didn't think Brady could play anymore. That's like the third or fourth time he's made that mistake, starting with Jimmy Garoppolo, bringing him in. We know Tom's age and contract situation. Okay, that just led you right after that to 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. And then,
well, honestly, it probably worked out better for Tom Brady. I'm not sure those Patriots would have won another Super Bowl if he was still there. I know he's fantastic, but that team has got a lot of holes on it.
okay, look what he did with the worst franchise in professional sports history.
He did have a miserable coaching staff from head coach down, but he did have a lot of offensive weapons, right? Leonard Fournette. I mean, I never really thought
who he brought in.
I get it. Leonard Fournette.
Okay.
I mean, you talk about Mike Evans. You talk about, again, a guy like Chris Godwin. I mean, he did bring in Rob Gronkowski. I'm just saying that team, and then he brought Antonio Brown in. I'm just saying that team had a lot of talent around it. That's for certain. And trust me, Antonio Brown would never have been allowed to go back to the Patriots.
No. Here's the thing, right? Brady brought in Gronkowski, Brown, Fournette. Who were the stars of the Super Bowl last year? Gronkowski, Brown, Fournette, Brady. It's not a mistake. He turned a perpetual loser into a Super Bowl champion during a pandemic where you couldn't meet with everybody in 1 year. In 1 year. And people forget they were terrible. They were running that Bruce Arians offense the first 12 weeks last year before the bye. They were 7-5. And then he had a heart-to-heart with Arians and Leftwich. They altered it up a little bit to put in some things that Brady knew would work, play, action, pass, which they never used. Maybe using the short passing game instead of having everything be a 50-yard pass down the field. And all of a sudden they go undefeated down the stretch. It's not a mistake. And you listen to all the teammates. He's the reason why we won. It's because of him. And that's what made him truly special. And Belichick, to me, didn't want to acknowledge how great Brady was. He always thinks it's him. He always thinks it's coach over player.
Now, did you see the comment that he came out with today?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure he did. I want to finish up the rest of this because, and we'll jump back to it because Dave Portnoy, he's a big masshole. He's a big fan of anything Massachusetts area, big fan of the Boston Red Sox, big fan of the New England Patriots. And he made a little response video to this little statement. And I'll let you listen to it, Grumpy. I'll get your reaction because I know you probably have not heard it. But I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay. So why didn't he include New England? Like I said, I think he's still hurt that Kraft didn't do as much as he could to keep him on the team. He wanted to stay there. And, Kraft made the mistake of letting Bill Parcells go years and years ago. And he said he was never going to let that happen again. But he wound up letting the greatest player football's ever seen go. And that's going to be on his resume too. So what happens? He doesn't say anything. Supposedly, Ted Johnson used to play for the Patriots, said that when Kraft read the statement, he lost his freaking mind and was yelling and screaming to anyone who'd listen in Patriot offices at Patriot.
Oh, really?
Patriot place. Oh, yes. And he was losing his mind because they weren't mentioned. Then they send out a little cartoon, with a Brady riding away in a duck boat with the 7 Super Bowl trophies. And, he says, oh, thanks, Tom. And Kraft put out a really nice statement. And one thing Johnson said, Robert Kraft is really interested in PR, public relations. He's always been like that. Mm-hmm. So he sends out a really heartfelt thing. And Brady said, love you. Then gave him a heart emoji. I guess that means I love you in emoji talk. And, and then Belichick put out, well, first of all, Bill Belichick didn't put anything out for like a day and a half. And because he was out of town. Now, I guess they don't have
the ability to tweet or put up an Instagram post when they're out of town, Grumpy. You should know better than that.
I guess not. But if you want to put that up real quick.
Okay.
So we can break that down.
Alrighty. I want to. Okay. Damn it. Okay.
Because it's so back and forth, right? It's so back and forth. Here it is. I am privileged to have drafted.
Hold on. You like how he says, I'm privileged to have drafted.
Drafted.
He did
Okay.
draft him, but he did kind of throw in.
No,
like,
he didn't, because he was not.
one
You realize he was not general manager at that time. You do realize that, okay? He was not. Okay. So
you're saying Belichick didn't even draft Brady?
I've seen four guys have taken credit for drafting Tom Brady. 4 guys. Dick Rabine, the guy who actually scouted him. He's dead. He's passed away. Bobby Greer, who was the GM at the time. Bill Belichick. And Scott Pioli also took credit over the weekend for drafting him. So, I mean, there's an awful lot of chefs in that kitchen drafting Tom Brady. I'm just saying, if everyone knew he was going to be that great, why did they pick him in the 6th round? That's neither here nor there. Let's get to the statement. I am privileged to have drafted and coached Tom Brady, the ultimate competitor and winner. Tom's humble beginning in professional football. Tom's humble beginning. In other words,
it was a humble beginning. He came from nothing. He was a guy that was drafted 6th round. I don't disagree with that.
Okay. What does it mean? It means I created Tom Brady. He came from Michigan, first of all.
I don't feel that.
Absolutely.
Humble beginning. Like, I mean, look at him. When he came in, it was a humble beginning. He wasn't the guy. He was the guy that was put on the back burner. He was the guy that's like, oh, we invite, here you go. We drafted in the 6th round. You catch a camp invite. Okay, maybe you might be able to make
it. Okay, that's not a camp invite when you draft a guy.
You're gonna be here through camp. You're gonna be here through training camp. Is that better for you, Grumpy? I mean, how often do 6th and 7th round picks get cut that year and don't make the 53-man roster and don't even sometimes make the practice squad? Okay.
He was so good in training camp his rookie year that they kept 4 quarterbacks. I mean, here's the thing. Belichick certainly helped him along. All the coaches did. But just to say his humble beginnings, like he got him off of some fruit truck. Hey, look at this guy. I saw him throw a cantaloupe across the field while he's picking fruit. I made him a player. No. Okay. His humble beginning in professional football ultimately ended with him becoming the best player in NFL history, which that's the first time he's ever said that.
Does it shock you that it took until he retired for him to say something like that? Does Bill Belichick look like a guy who goes around handing out compliments like freaking apples?
I don't know. He used to say when Aaron Rodgers was coming to town, oh man, he's fantastic. I don't know a better quarterback than him. How do you think that makes Tom Brady feel when you're gushing over another quarterback who's really good? Aaron Rodgers is really good, right? I mean, he always said no player is even close to Lawrence Taylor, and this was like earlier this year.
And he loves Ed Reed. I get it. He's got his favorites.
Yeah, that's right. He has his favorites. So Tom consistently performed at the highest level against competition that always made him the number 1 player to stop. His pursuit of excellence was inspirational. Tom was professional on and off the field and carried himself with class, integrity, and kindness. I thank Tom for his relentless pursuit of excellence and positive impact on me and the New England Patriots for 20 years. Bill Belichick.
Yeah, and then Brady just responds back on Instagram. He says, thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach Belichick. I appreciate being coached by you, the greatest coach in NFL history.
3 heart emojis. I think that's better than 1 or 2, right?
Yeah, man. 3 heart emojis, Grumpy. That's a lot on the social scale.
Is this like high school shit? Really?
Now, here's the thing. People use the and in lieu of using language, and they just use instead of saying sounds good, they'll just do a little thumbs up emoji. They'll do one of these, okay, sounds good, thumbs up.
But this was not good enough for Patriot fans either. It was not.
What do you mean this wasn't good enough for Patriot fans?
Well, because he didn't put this on his storyboard. He put it on something that disappears after 24 hours as opposed to something that stays there perpetually.
Oh, God.
Here's the thing. I know nothing about these things. I'm just saying what people have said to me. That's all. So I just found it interesting how they're back and forth. And to me, I don't care that he didn't mention the New England Patriots. I don't care in his retirement. Guess what? He wasn't retiring for the Patriots. He was retiring from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I can understand that. Was it a dig at Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick? Absolutely it was. But it's his retirement speech or announcing his retirement. Why should he not be able to say whatever he wants without somebody getting offended? I'm a Tom Brady fan. Was I offended that he didn't include me in the speech? No. Just, you know what? I enjoyed watching.
It's a little different. Here's the thing. It is, I'll tell you one thing. It's definitely for the young kids. You're definitely throwing shade at the organization when you completely omit them. Not even a mention of the Patriots, not a one. And again, when you look at it, Grump, I'll let you listen to Dave Portnoy. He was a little less than thrilled about this. And I feel like you'll get a little bit of a kick out of it. And this is how most Patriot fans were. I don't want to say like, oh, he's the anomaly. Dave Portnoy was the only guy who made a reaction like this. This is how majority of the masshole fans are feeling.
Okay, emergency press conference time. Tom Brady officially retired. This time for real. He announced on his Instagram page.
Can we first off talk really quickly about the style of shirt he's wearing? He's wearing, again, it's a style where you wear holes in your shirt.
Oh, I have shirts like that, but it's not a style. I didn't realize my shirts have style now.
Usually is a very, very dressed to the T type of guy. I would be shocked if he had shirts that had multiple holes in around the collar and everything looked frayed like that. Unless that's just, maybe he's a very humble guy too. Maybe that's a shirt he's been wearing for 40 years and he's got a net worth of, multiple millions of dollars in the owner of Barstool Sports. But I like the fashion.
So that is a fashion statement?
I would assume so. I assume that's not what he usually wears. I'm not trying to. I got no room to talk about fashion, but still,
the warden tells me I'm not allowed to leave the house looking like that. But I didn't realize I was in fashion.
It's come back in style, Grumpy. So you can wear your holy shirts out in public.
Everything old is new
again.
What
the fuck? I just read like 5 swipe rights. Tampa this, Tampa that. Let me suck Bruce Arians' dick. Let me suck the fucking owner's Glazer's dick. What, do you play 100 years in Tampa? Dude, you were there for 3 seconds. You want to thank Tampa? Fine. I didn't see the Patriots once. I don't want to make this about, crying, but you're not going to mention Mr. Kraft, Belichick, 6 Super Bowls, your entire fucking career basically in New England. You don't say one thing? What the fuck? So I'm just going to pretend I didn't read that, and I'm not going to let my blood pressure go up. Tampa this, Tampa the fuck Tampa. Nobody gives a fuck about Tampa.
Tom Brady.
There must be part 2 coming because that was not real. And fuck him if that's how he's going to retire with that. I know he's done a fuck him.
Dude, he sounds so freaking salty. It's
don't
hard
understand it. I don't understand it.
He owes me. He owes our fan base, and he owes our organization a little bit of love.
Okay, the organization cut him loose. They wanted nothing more to do with him after 2019. He was begging them for contracts from 2017 going forward, begging them. He took pay cuts the last 3 years there. I mean, it was so comical how terrible it was how they treated him.
It can be a minefield for young homeowners.
I don't know what you're listening to.
I apologize. It was something. I've got a whole bunch of things pulled up for the Brian Flores segment, and one of them just started going off. But I'm sorry. Continue.
But I'm like, he wanted to stay there. They've given him below market deals every year. He had to take pay cuts to stay there at the end. And all of a sudden now you want to piggyback on his retirement? All you had to do was re-sign me. He wanted to stay there. That was the whole thing. He never wanted to leave. They forced him out.
He's. I think if he didn't already, I think he's signing a one-day deal to retire as a Patriot.
I don't think he is.
Yes, he is. I saw that on social media.
Oh, okay.
I believe so. So that's what I'm like when I see a whole bunch of this. I think to myself, I'm like, people just so quick to jump off the boats and so quick to do.
I think in his first thing, I think he said, he wanted to thank the fans. I think they were just, that's just kind of collateral damage, right? So I think you want to thank the fans, but if you thank the fans and then you don't thank Belichick and Kraft, then it looks really bad. So he's just like, maybe just cut everybody out from New England. And then they'll because let's be honest, he's going to have his number retired. He's going to go into the Patriot Hall of Fame. He's going to talk about them then. When he was let go and wound up going with Tampa, he put a big thing out how he loved New England. Even at the game 4 this year, he was like, there was always going to be a part of me. My kids were born here. The whole thing. He was really emotional. But now he's past that. He's past it. When you see the Hall of Fame speech, he's going to mention all those guys and everything will be fine. I mean, it was so ridiculous. If he wants to retire that way, let him. It's his freaking career. It's not a fan's career or a Patriots career. It's Tom Brady's career. No problem at all with it. Stop crying. Stop crying.
And I will say this much too. I think that people are opining that he will sign a one-day contract, but I don't think he actually has done so or has.
I guarantee you he does not. That's something I have a hard time believing he's going to do.
I always like looking at this type of stuff. The original roster of Madden 2002, before Tom Brady became the Patriot starter in 2001 season after winning the Super Bowl. He was rated a 51 overall quarterback. And I love how we showed the people at the time period that were the top of the top. Randy Moss. Oh,
hey, those are all good players, though.
Yeah, Ogden, fantastic. I mean, Ray Lewis, Marshall Faulk, Tony Gonzalez, Warren Sapp.
TJ, first name he mentions, a freaking offensive lineman.
Ogden, baby, the left tackle. What is he? Used to play for the Ravens, right? Jonathan Ogden.
He was drafted just before the Giants pick. Then the Giants picked Cedric Jones, who had like one eye. He had no depth perception in one eye.
Oh, really?
Played defensive tackle for Oklahoma, defensive end. And it was like a 4-player draft, and the Giants picked 5th. Does that sound familiar, Islander fans? I don't know. You tell me.
And he released a video there today too, which is like a minute long, and it gave credit to everybody. It was just like one of those pump up, hype up videos from his, the beginnings with the Patriots all the way through. And again, he says, I played for the name on the front of the jersey, and the name on the back of my jersey there. Play for friends, community, etc. I mean, again,
and they just all. I thank all the fans, and with capital letters, all. So, whatever. Here's the thing. I don't think he expected the backlash he got, but those Boston fans are kind of bitches. Let's be honest. So they are. Come on. They think their shit doesn't stink. You know that. I mean, they treat other parts of the country like they're trash. So, they are what they are, but they were butthurt that he didn't do that. So they got in a tizzy, and he's, put a little salve on the wound there.
Do you want to know what's cool? The Tom Brady little Twitter, if you put hashtag Tom Brady, it puts a little goat next to him now. A little Tom Brady for the goat. But so that's kind of what covered what happened with Tom Brady. We spent a good little bit of chunk of time on it, and I'm sure we're going to spend more time on this next segment than we're going to get to comments. We're going to get to comments. No?
I'm saying, before we get to the next segment, maybe you want to hit the Brady comments.
Yeah. Yes, I got it there. I was saying, hey, good evening, guys. What's up? Like I was saying, I believe Brian Flores that Ross did offer. Okay, we're going to talk about that. So I'm not going to read that comment yet. Tony Cheese saying, I think Tom should have signed a 1-day contract with the Jets just to spite the Patriots.
Can I just say one thing about the Jets? I have this jotted down. They had the best tweet ever. Their tweet was, "This better be real," which I thought was fantastic. I thought that was spectacular. Kudos to the Jets, without a doubt.
Man.
You know what? And then, of course, they said, the greatest all time, blah, blah, blah. But I thought that first one was just spectacular. Good for the Jets. I am rooting for the Jets next year. I'm telling you right now, I'm rooting for the Jets.
Over the Giants?
Well, I'll root for both teams. Neither one of them going anywhere.
Oh, man. Oh, man. I
don't have a team to root for anymore. Tom Brady's gone.
There it
Football
is. Football
has changed for me. This is great right here. That is great.
This better be real.
It's the official Twitter page.
You could have done anything. You could have done like the Office scene. It's happening. It's happening. Oh, there's so many good ones. You know what? I love when the social media accounts could make fun and jeer at themselves. That always
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
That makes me like them more.
Alexander saying the Patriot fans feeling a little salty.
True. They're just like every other team now. That's the thing that people don't realize. Brady and all great players. Michael Jordan was able to do it, and other players, but they like spackle over some of the cracks in the foundation. And the Patriots don't have that anymore. And they're learning the hard way that it was Brady, not the coaches. That's why players win games, not coaches. Thank you, DJ.
All righty, Grumpy. Jeremy F saying, all righty, here we go. I didn't bail. Like TJ in his bathroom breaks, just joshing you. Holy shit. Damn. Okay. Who are the top 5 team athletes of all time? Time to check your homework from the teacher.
Okay. TJ, did you do your homework?
I didn't do the homework, so I'm about to scramble to do some homework, guys.
Okay. So are we going to do it are we going to do one per sport? Is that what we're going to do?
Top 5 of all time. Top 5 of all teams. Top 5 team athletes, Grumpy. Simple as that.
Okay. I'm going to say for hockey, I'm going to say Gordie Howe. The amount of time he was able to play, he bridged generations, right? And no, he's not Wayne Gretzky. But when your name is Mr. Hockey and you were part of the formation of the Players Association with Ted Lindsay and you were able to play with your sons. You went to the World Hockey Association. Then you came back and played in the NHL till you were 51. That puts you high up in my book. Is he the greatest athlete in hockey? No. That's either Bobby Orr or Mario Lemieux. But I just think Gordie, when your name is Mr. Hockey, you're right. You're really right up there. For baseball, Babe Ruth. There's no one bigger in baseball than Babe Ruth. Never will be. He was the sport. He was the sports world back in the 1920s and 30s. He just was. He hit more home runs himself than the majority of teams in baseball when he hit 61. But I don't remember what year it was, 1920, whatever. But Babe Ruth for certain is baseball. You hear Babe Ruth, the fact that you know who Babe Ruth is, even TJ knows who Babe Ruth is, and he's been dead for 70 years, almost 70 years now. And since we're only doing team sports in basketball, I wanted to say two guys, but I'm just going to go with one. If I wanted to go with two, I was going to go Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. They saved the NBA, and I'm going with them. I just think they saved the NBA, and they made the players around them better. But I didn't pick them, but I did want to mention them because I thought they were truly special together, and they saved the NBA. People forget, as popular as the NBA is right now, back when I was watching when I was younger, they used to show the championship games on tape delay at 11:30 at night. I mean, the league was on the verge of going out. And then you could say, well, what about Bill Russell? He won 11 championships. Yeah. And Bill Russell was a fantastic teammate, but they only had, I think, 8 teams or 12 teams at the time. So, I kind of rule him out because of that. But he was fantastic and a great teammate, great team player. But I'm going with Michael Jordan in the NBA because he was truly special and he separated himself out from everybody else. He was able to will his team to victory just with his own ability. And he was truly special. And as a Duke fan, that's got to be tough for me to say, him going to the University of North Carolina. But, let's be honest, right? I'm always honest on this show. So Michael Jordan is going to be just below Tom Brady. And Tom Brady's number one. And you say, why Tom Brady? Well, because I just think it's harder to win in football than any other sport. In basketball, it's just 5 guys on the court. So one guy could easily dominate and dictate who's going to win or lose. Baseball, a little bit different. It's more of an individual sport, even though it is a team sport, but it's pitcher versus hitter, right? And there's been a lot of clutch guys. And in hockey, the same thing. It's 5-on-5. And some guys are truly special, but you don't see guys dominating at that level anymore. You just don't. And so I'm going to go Tom Brady. Why? 53-man roster, 46 guys on game day. The fact that he was able to do it over 22 years, and he was in the conference championship game 14 years, 10 Super Bowls, 7 victories, 5 MVPs. He has more Super Bowl victories himself than any franchise in the history of the league. He has more championships than any player in the history of the league. That includes those great Green Bay teams of the late 50s and the 60s when Vince Lombardi was there. I mean, that just speaks to his level of greatness. And the fact that he was able to do it till he was 44 years old. He led the league in passing this year. Just incredible. And as you hear people say, his work ethic, his drive, and that's what you see from not Babe Ruth, but you see from all those other guys I'm mentioning, it was the work ethic, the drive to succeed, to be better, to be the best. That's what separates the greatest athletes from guys who are, really, really, really outstanding. But that separates the greats. And that's why I go with Tom Brady. And like I said, once again, the fact that he was able to do it after leaving New England, where he'd been for 20 years, to the worst franchise in the history of sports and win a Super Bowl in year 1 was just incredible.
I got 3 the same that you do: Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Babe Ruth. I mix it up a little bit though. Got Bo Jackson on that list.
Didn't play long enough.
If I'm thinking greatest athletes, I mean, you talk about an athlete, right? If you're picking, if we could have single sports, right? You put Michael Phelps and you put other guys in the list, right? Like Muhammad Ali. But I mean, if we're talking team sports, Bo Jackson, I mean, you talk about athlete. unbelievable athlete. He was the first of that type that ever existed. I mean, the guy, he was built like a horse, could run, could move, so strong, so powerful, so explosive. I got to put Bo Jackson on the list. And I've got CR7. I've got Cristiano Ronaldo on that list. Maybe a little recency bias, but I could go Pele, but in the same token, yeah, he played a lot of games against a lot of underwhelming opponents. But Cristiano Ronaldo's done it at all the levels. I mean, you talk about, right, like how does it match up in the big game? His numbers in Champions Leagues and his numbers across the board are just spectacular, and he's still doing it at a very high level at the moment. So I've got my top 5 is similar but a little different.
Okay, I wasn't even thinking soccer, honestly. So
Jeremy F. say, hey Tony, if the Islanders don't win in the next 6 days, I have to say the season is over.
Wow.
Warzone Senior says here, have you guys ever heard of that? Soy Boy TLO Mitch guy covers Isles prospects. No, I have not. Don't know who that is.
TLO Mitch, I don't know.
TLO Mitch. I don't even know what that name is. TLO Mitch, not sure. Tony Cheese saying, every day is a must win, Jeremy. Every day we need points. That's true. I think Tom Brady was a little butthurt, but I don't blame him. Nor do I blame the Patriots for what they did.
Yeah, I think Brady was definitely hurt. And he was certainly being a little petty. Yeah, I don't care. It's not going to diminish my feelings. I mean, like I said, as soon as he stopped playing, well, okay, great. I'll have the memories, which is all it really matters.
Speaking about the responses, right? We loved how the Jets did theirs. Alexander just sent this response to me here. NBC New York said Tom Brady, who lost 2 Super Bowls to the Giants during his legendary 22-year NFL career.
That's how you know you're great. That's how you know you're great. That's how you know you're the greatest. That's how you know. Where that city it wants to take a dig at you. That's how you know you're the best.
Jeremy Ford also saying here, he can turn around the worst team in the franchise history. Are you suggesting, Grump, that the Islanders need to bring Brady into the Islanders organization?
I tell you what, he's a better GM and coach than Bruce Arians. That's for certain.
Oh man. Well, he'd be better than our number 12 as well. The Patriots fans need to put their big boy pants on and just go ahead and thank him. Absolutely.
That's it. And that's what I did. Thanks, Tom Brady. The whole thing is, you think about it, how many athletes go out on top? Right? How many go out on top?
I remember Strahan did, right? He retired after they won a Super Bowl.
No,
yes, he did. He retired after they won a Super Bowl. For certain.
Okay, that's no. I mean, at the top of his powers. Peyton Manning did too, but he was a passenger when they won that last Super Bowl. I'm not saying John Elway was nowhere near the quarterback he was in his last year with Denver when they beat Atlanta in the Super Bowl. So, I'm just saying at the type of their skills, like Barry Sanders, maybe Jim Brown, Calvin Johnson, perhaps. Most guys stay around too long. He didn't. And at 44, he was still putting up the best numbers of his career. You can roll your fingers all you want.
Hey, let's go, buddy. It's been 30 minutes. You had enough. I know we could do a 10-hour-long podcast, and it wouldn't be enough time for you to
We're
talk
not going to have too many more of these Tom Brady podcasts.
Grumpy, you will find a way. Any way you could find you find a way on our Islander podcast. Jeremy F saying, if the Patriots can let go of Brady, the Oilers can trade Gretzky. Well, the precedent has been set. Bailey can't be moved.
Very good.
Absolutely.
I'm a little disappointed that you don't want me to sprinkle a little bit of Brady dust on the podcast to make it better.
A little Brady dust. You always sprinkle Brady dust. I'm just saying. I'm giving you. That's why I tried not to interrupt him. Like let him let him just keep talking. Let him talk and talk and talk.
I thought maybe there's something wrong with your hand going like this.
Yeah, I was doing my wrists.
Right, no, seriously, let's get to the rest of the Brady comments.
Unless somehow you'll be able, Drew L, you'll be able to catch us afterwards. The recording live goes up afterwards. So even if you're eating dinner, no worries, man. Tony Cheese saying here, I've got matching pants to Dave Portnoy's shirt. And I don't understand why people feel entitled to shit like that. It is mutually beneficial relationship. Plus, how many Super Bowls did you get with him? Doesn't need to thank you for anything.
No, but he will. I mean, when they have the Patriot retirement ceremony for his jersey, he will, and he'll gush over the Patriot fans. Absolutely. And everyone forget when he goes into the Hall of Fame, which he will 5 years from now, you'll hear the same thing. He'll bring everybody up. He was a little butthurt with how it ended, and his family was too. If you ever listen to the old man, he's really pissed still.
the most passive aggressive fans I've ever met in my life. Tony Cheese is saying,
Absolutely.
John M saying, "Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, John." Oh yeah, I tell you that Giants tweet. Players win games. I don't know what that is. Oh, I'm sorry.
But
Bill
Torrey and
Torrey
Arbor,
Arbor built a dynasty.
true.
And then John M saying here, I do think that the league will protect Ross, and even though I believe that Ross wanted to tank, the league will not admit it happen. So
We're going to talk about
We're going to talk about this.
Any more Brady's or no?
I'm trying to get through here. Yep, Auburn sweeps Alabama basketball. #1 War Eagle. Grump.
Good for Auburn. Good for Auburn.
Alexander says, and who does Brady have the most losses against? The Miami Dolphins.
That's right. He had his worst record was against Miami. I think he still had a winning record, but those matter of fact, I know he did. But I think he was like below 500 in Miami, I believe.
John, I'll send you the grumpy old man's address so you can wear a little Auburn shirt.
Hey,
grumpy.
you know it. I'll wear it. Good for Auburn, man. Good for Auburn.
Oh man,
Who's not freaking rooting for Auburn basketball? Really? Even as a Duke fan, I'm rooting for Auburn. They haven't won anything. How can you not root for a team like that?
Mm-hmm. And then Jeremy Ford, they're saying, how do you feel about a player playing his whole career with one team and never winning the cup, but then jump ship like Bork, and would rather play and would rather the player stay, or would you rather the player stay with his team?
Okay, he didn't jump ship. They traded him to Colorado as a favor to him to get him a cup.
Ray Bork.
He didn't jump ship, Ray Bork. And as soon as he won a cup, they gave him a parade, even though he won with Colorado, which I think is kind of dumb, but whatever. I mean, but he didn't jump ship. And I have no problem if you want to stay. If you want to go to try to chase a championship, I have no problem with that. I mean, it would be great if everyone could stay with their same team their whole careers. I love that as a kid growing up. You always knew where everybody was every single year. Everybody played for the same team. It was great. Free agency, I'm not saying it's ruined sports, but for a fan, it kind of has a little bit.
Better for the players, not so much for the fans. John M saying here, the worst day sports related to me was seeing my beloved Dan Marino ending his career with that humiliating playoff loss.
I forget the score, but they got annihilated.
Grump, before we jump in and we talk about the Brian Flores, now the bombshell, grumpy old man, that was dropped on the football world, we do have an ad to read. The moment we've been waiting for since September is finally here. In honor of the big game, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56, is giving new customers 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. DraftKings Sportsbook is now live in New York, meaning you can bet from almost a third of the country. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, play DraftKings Fantasy Football Contest for Super Bowl 56. New customers can get a free shot at $1 million top prize with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the promo code THPN and get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. Must be 21 years or older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for a full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Tennessee, call or text TN Redline, which is 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, you can call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, you can call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY, which is 467369.
Woo! I know you can't wait to have them change.
I'm about to say, I cannot wait to have them change this freaking ad with all these damn numbers.
I know it's numbers and letters that's like death to you.
The bane of my existence. So Grump, only 30 minutes, about 40 minutes into the podcast. You got your little Brady fix in. Brian Flores. Brian Flores is suing 3 NFL teams: the Miami Dolphins, the Denver Broncos, and the New York Giants.
And the NFL too.
And the NFL. Yes, and the NFL. So I'm sure it might not be a shock to anybody. The NFL is saying that they deny these charges and they're going to vehemently defend their positions. And you've seen responses already out of the Denver Broncos camp, out of John Elway's camp. You've seen responses there from the New York Giants camp. Now, I will play here for us, Grumpy Old Man, the actual clip because Brian Flores went on, I can't remember whose show it was on ESPN, to talk about a Kellerman show, I believe, to talk about I can't. He's one of the guys from Mike in the Morning. Whoever
He
the hell
did the rounds. I think he spoke with Greenberg. That Mike and Mike
Greenberg,
are
that's
gone.
exactly who it is. That's right, Mike and Mike. And I'll let you listen to
They're
it. It's a minute. It's a minute and 20 seconds here.
Yeah.
So I'll let you listen to this clip first, and then we'll talk a little bit about the situation, what he's brought forward, because I do think there are, trust me, truths in what he said, and I think something maybe not.
We are going to break everything down, right?
Yes,
Okay.
we are. It's not something you could just make a blanket statement like, oh, he's wrong, or oh, he's 100% right, because you need to go bit by bit. There's a lot to go through, and yes, that's all I'm gonna say for right now.
You filed this lawsuit, which you are aware is obviously going to have enormous repercussions. What was the tipping point for you through your experiences that made you feel this was something you needed to do?
Well, I mean, just, I've been on, several interviews over the years. And look, I mean, we didn't have to file a lawsuit for the world to know that there's an issue from a hiring and firing practices in the National Football League.
That's correct. A lot of people have pointed this out. So why did you feel you needed to do this?
Because we need change. That was the number one reason. And I know there's a sacrifice, there's risk to that, but at the end of the day, we need change. We need change. I know many very capable black coaches, some of my staff who I know, if given an opportunity or when given an opportunity, are going to go and do a great job on their interview. And I would just hate for that to be a waste. And I think we need to change the hearts and minds of the people making those decisions. That's why we filed the lawsuit.
Who are those people? Who specifically do you think needs the change?
The owners of the NFL.
So Grumpy Old Man, that is correct though. And there's a lot to break down. This is not the full statement or anything like that. It's just a little clip here. And he will start off, I guess you could say, Grumpy Old Man, with his time with Miami, right? The first team under the gun. Go ahead, Grump.
Well, did we want to talk about the allegations first? Or
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's discuss the allegations.
Okay.
So
The first one, it were numerous ones. He was saying that this all started supposedly when he got a text message from Bill Belichick congratulating him on getting the Giants job. And
before we talk about the text message, how Bill Belichick is that for him only to save the first name in his phone and not the last name? He thinks he's texting Brian Dabo, and he's texting Brian Flores before he had the interview. And again, I'm just like, Jesus. I'm like, Bill Belichick. Oh, here's the thing. Go ahead and continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my whole thing is, particularly if you have two people in your contacts list with the name of Brian. Remember, people forget Brian Dabo as well as Brian Flores both coached under Bill Belichick. So maybe he should have had Brian D or Brian F. I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, seriously, how, like, for team meetings, how is this crazy bastard Bill Belichick able to say, like, hey, we got to get the defense on the right page? How did you know which Brian he was he was texting all those years too? Because they were there. They were the Patriots at the same time period, were they not?
Yes. Yes, they were. And the whole thing was,
son of a bitch.
you just see Belichick. I mean, you get older. I'm going to tell you from personal experience, you got, did I send, oh gosh, did I sent that to the wrong person, but I don't do anything crazy. So, so I'm like, oh geez, I said, oh, sorry, wrong person. It happens. Okay. It happens. And that's what happened there. He thought he was texting Daboll because he mentioned the Bills. And that's what it says, oh, it's this, who you think you're talking to?
Morris was, yeah.
He's like, oh, I fucked up. Sorry.
Could you imagine Bill Belichick as he does that? He's like, oh, damn it. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean you to see that. I'll read it for you again. He says, sounds like you've landed. Congrats. Did you hear something I didn't hear? He said, Giants, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point. I interview on Thursday. I think I have a shot at it. Got it. I hear from Buffalo and the Giants that you're their guy. Hope it works out if you want it to. He said, that's definitely what I want. I hope you're right, coach. Thank you. Coach, are you talking to your coach? Are you talking to Brian Flores or Brian Dabo? Just making sure. And he says, sorry, I effed this up. I double checked and misread the text. I think they're naming Dabo. I'm sorry about that. Bill Belichick. And he says, thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. End of communication.
And that was the last time they ever text.
Okay. Okay. But let's be honest, right? Let's be honest here. When you're looking to hire a coach, well, all right. I don't even know how we want to break down. It's so big.
Let's just start with this one first, because we'll go bit by bit, because there's a lot, and I think some definitely are true and some are not. When I see something like this, does it shock me? And here's the thing, right? The Giants come out and they build a huge, storyline, like they're trying to protect a key witness here, and they're trying to be like, okay, well, this happened, and at 10:13 a.m. he went ahead and he takes a sip of coffee, but right now he's at the Starbucks coffee store, so there's no way he could get cross town in 5 minutes and murder XYZ. So I mean, they're building a story for the Giants.
But here's the thing, look at the Giants. What were they? And here's the thing. I am on record on this podcast 2-3 weeks ago when we were stunned that Flores was fired. Stunned. Because you know how much I like him. And I think he's a great coach. And what did I say? I want the Giants to get him as their new head coach. But you know how it happens, right? I want A, B. This is the order I want, guys. So, when they interview, they might say, yeah, this guy's the favorite. That's the guy we want. But if he falls through or doesn't want the job, we go to plan B. And maybe that's what the case was. Why do the Giants possibly want Brian Dabo over Brian Flores? Maybe because Brian Dabo has done such great work with Josh Allen. What's the Giants' biggest problem? Daniel Jones is their quarterback. That's the biggest problem they have. I'd still draft another quarterback in the first round of the draft this year. I would.
Yes,
okay.
and that is the issue, and I think that's the reason why number one Dabo was selected. He worked wonders with Josh Allen, and I think unfortunately the Giants organization want to stick with Daniel Jones. What a freaking mistake that is! Daniel Jones is not Josh Allen. Blow the quarterback position up and start fresh.
That's right. And today they hired a new offensive coordinator who was the former quarterback coach in Kansas City. Mike Kafka. Yes. Why? Because he worked with Patrick Mahomes. What's the whole franchise need to get better at? The quarterback position. That's why Dabo was hired, and that's why Kafka was hired. They need to get the most out of Daniel Jones. If he doesn't work, they need to get another quarterback. But for me, is there a problem with the Rooney Rule?
Well, no, stop. Holy shit, do not jump all over the place.
No, because that's what this whole thing is, right? That's what the whole thing's about.
Let's talk a little bit more about specifically the Giants before you jump to the Rooney Rule and jump the freaking gun, Grumpy, like you like to do. Let's talk about this, right? So they're saying, and the Giants come back, they try to defend themselves by saying, oh, well, if you're thinking, and I pulled it up on screen from the report via ESPN, if you're thinking that we would go ahead and make a decision based off of a 20-minute long Skype interview of who our next head coach is going to be, you're sadly mistaken. We go through a much heavier vetting process, all this other nonsense. And I look at it like this too. You always have the list of people that they want. And right. Here's the thing. Imagine it's like when you're going for a job interview, right? If you're one of the hiring managers, right? Okay, I have to interview XYZ amount of external people. I have to interview a certain amount of people that are internal. I've got to interview so many people that have this experience, that experience. And they may already say, okay, Johnny, you've done a great job doing this as a contractor. We're going to give you the job. But we still just have to go through a formality and interview a bunch of people additionally. Now, again, it's not apples to apples, this comparison, but I'm just using it to say that teams and organizations and hiring managers already usually have their minds made up sometimes when they make decisions and bring people in an interview. And sometimes, and let's say, oh, if I left or if I was a contractor and I left to go somewhere else, right? They need to have a plan B in case I flake on them. And if something happens to me in short notice, they could find a replacement for me.
That's right. And like I said, you have a pecking order. What does the team need? Bep, bep, bep. And these are the numbers. Totally believe that. Okay. And that's just business, period. If you don't think that's what it is, I mean, the NFL has a lot of problems. Let's be honest. The nepotism in the sport and the coaching ranks, absolutely. And they're right, though. Belichick just said he thinks that that's what it was. Now, here's the thing. I guarantee he was top of their list. Guaranteed Dabo was top of their list. But if Dabo didn't get it, maybe they would have went with Flores. Why does Flores not get the job over Dabo? Look at all the head coaching hires of recent years. Who are they all about? It's about young offensive coordinators who work with explosive offenses. I mean, that's what it's all about. And unfortunately for Brian Dabo, he's a defensive coach. And here's something else working against Brian Dabo.
No, not Brian Dabo, Brian Flores.
I'm sorry, Brian Flores. Sorry.
Bill Belichick, God damn it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But here's the thing about Flores, right? He's been in Miami, 3 years? He's had 4 offensive coordinators, 2 defensive coordinators, and 4 offensive line coaches. That's a lot of turnover at the same spot. So, like I said, I just, if you're going to bring in a Brian Flores, the first thing you're going to have to do is get a really good offensive coordinator to work with Daniel Jones or a new quarterback. His track record has shown that, he's not the best at that right now. So that also could have had something to do with it.
Yes, and thanks for sending this, Alexander. Now, this is the itinerary they had for Brian Flores. Again, they had everything written down to a T and, everything of that nature. I can go ahead and continue, Grump, because we're going to talk about the Rooney Rule. And again, I think it's got good intentions, but
I can't believe that Pat Hanlon and Ronnie Barnes are still with the Giants as employees. They've been there since the 80s. I'm just saying.
So, I mean, the Giants again are going to combat him on every single one of these items, as I'm sure the Denver Broncos will, and just like the Miami Dolphins. Maybe we'll save the Dolphins for last because I think that's where as many inflammatory items came up.
Yes, we're going to say that for the end.
Okay,
but okay. They say, and the whole thing's about the Rooney Rule, right? That's what the whole thing's about. And is the Rooney Rule perfect? No, it's not. Is there problems with it? Yes, there are. Do people use black candidates to get through the Rooney Rule? Absolutely, they do. If they're not, they're lying to you. They absolutely do. But that's what happens when you have to put a parameter on a hire. If you find, and I don't care what color any coach is, best coach should get the job, period.
Yes, I agree with that.
So, right. I mean, firmly. But here's the thing. If Bill Belichick is on the market tomorrow and you have to go through the Rooney Rule, do you think any one of those black or minority candidates has a shot against Bill Belichick? The answer is no. Absolutely not. So they're just going through the motions. And I do believe that teams do that without a doubt. But here's what the NFL has done, and they've had really good success with it. And you're going to see it come to fruition in a few years, I think. They've done a really, really good job hiring front office personnel who are minorities and women, offensive and defensive coordinators who are people of color. And you're seeing that every year. And you're seeing as more of these guys, because there's women too, percolate to the top, they're going to be the ones who start getting those head coaching jobs. It takes time. You can't just start, I just quit playing and I want to be a head coach. It's not the way it works. It takes a long time to get that. You have to go through different steps, if you will, to become a head coach. Gerard Mayo, who I think is going to be a fantastic head coach, I think he's making a mistake. He's a black linebacker, used to play for New England, but he won't take a coordinator job. He doesn't even make any play calls at New England. He's like co-defensive coordinator with Steve Belichick. That's a joke in itself, Steve Belichick being a defensive coordinator. But he'd be better served going somewhere else to become a DC and then get a head coaching job. He says, I'm only going to take a head coaching job. Well, you're going to be waiting a while. I mean, there's so many guys who are qualified, but you got to get them in play calling positions to start. And like I said, Flores, I think he's fantastic. I think he went about this the wrong way. He's the favorite for the Houston Texans job. right now.
or was the favorite.
Right. I mean, if you're
because I was about to say, like, I think when we talk about Miami, uh, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think he will never have another head coaching job, whether it's right or wrong. And we'll talk about it too, and kind of the reasons why I believe that. I think he's a fantastic coach too.
he is a great coach. I love him.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate.
How many arguments on this podcast have I gotten into with Alexander defending Brian Flores?
Yeah.
I wanted the Giants to get him. I see why they didn't, but I wanted him because they need structure, and he's a structure guy. Without a doubt.
He comes from the Belichick family
That's
tree
right.
of coaching, and again, he learns
Absolutely.
the structure, and again, they adopt it and ingratiate it with their style.
But
So
it's him
that's
as a person. He's a leader of men. It's him as a person. I love Brian Flores. I just think you went about this the wrong way.
and so that's what happens with the New York Giants. Anything else you want to say about the Giants situation and the Giants scenario?
Yeah, I just think these things that Brian is trying, they're going to be hard to prove.
Yes, they will be extremely hard to prove. But now I want to go talk about what the allegations were against the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos, grumpy old man, Brian Flores claims there in 2019, before they hired Vic Fangio, John Elway showed up after a night of heavy drinking the day before, showed up disheveled, his clothes kind of just like a strewn, and he was quite obviously still hungover over that time period, and he felt that it wasn't a real interview. He felt that he was never really given a real opportunity and chance. If you really thought that I was a real candidate, you would not be showing up to this interview drunk. Or you wouldn't be showing up to this interview and talk or like hungover from the night before. You would have been ready. You would have been, dressed to the T, really wanting to impress me.
Okay. The way Denver's run their team the last few years seems like they're drunk all the time over there. I mean, maybe that's just the way it is in Denver. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you smell alcohol on him? He looked disheveled. I don't know.
Okay, here's the thing. Would it shock you if that John Elway, would it shock you at all? Because again, we talked about with the Rooney Rule, there are people they will literally just bring in to say, okay, now we've interviewed a person that is an ethnic minority. That's what the rule states. At least one individual has to be an ethnic minority that you interview there for a head coaching position. And you think to yourself, like, did they just bring him in? And again, Denver comes out there and says, and John Elway made a statement. He's like, I protect my character, all this, the general things he does, ripped up by the PR team. He said, I thought that, the interview we had for 3.5 hours with Brian Flores was a good one. This is the first time I'm hearing about any sort of issue or any sort of gripe about it. But, we were there for 3.5 hours. I would, if I wasn't taking you seriously, I wouldn't have interviewed you there for 3.5 hours.
Yeah. You're making a lot of assumptions, accusing somebody of drinking the night before because of the way they looked. I just don't think it's the way to go about things. And here's the thing, was Vic Fangio, sometimes there's interim head coaches, if you know what I mean, just guys to get you through. And I've always felt Vic Fangio was one of those guys. He was in his upper 60s. How long was he going to be there? And maybe they're trying to build something and just have somebody in place. I don't know. I'm not even going to pretend to know what goes on out there in Denver. But I just, like I said, just to go and try to bury people for the way they look when they were interviewing you, I'm sorry. It's just not the way to go about it. He's making assumptions. That's all that Flores. He's making assumptions. And that's not the way to win a case.
Well, here's the thing. It's just going to be more of the fight of public opinion than actually the lawsuit. It's going to be a public opinion. That's what this is all about. And it's about kind of changing the perception of it. Vic Fangio was an awful coach. Awful. But
he was a good defensive coordinator in his time.
Okay, not a good head coach. There's more head coaches in the NFL that fail than are successful. Just simple as it is.
Right. How many really successful NFL coaches are there?
Handful. And you see a lot more guys fail out. And it's the same thing with NFL players, but a lot more fail than are successful. So, the items he's talking about, and, you got John Elway saying, well, it's because I had to fly into the middle of the night. I just got done with another interview. And, the only place I could sleep was on the window of the airplane, whatever. He's coming out there and saying that. Do I think it's a possibility that he was on the airplane early? Yeah. Do I think maybe he was probably drunk or hungover from the night before? Would it shock me? No, none of those things would shock me. I don't put it past anybody. I'm just saying. So that one doesn't really shock me if right or wrong. I wouldn't be shocked either way what happens on it.
Whereas Case loses, though, is if they have, he was on a flight from this time to this time. You know what I mean? That's what happens when you just make those snap. He doesn't know. When I hear Flores talk about something, he doesn't really know. He's just guessing and he's playing the race card, which I'm just not a big fan of.
Well, and let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. So now this was
the one.
This is the one. This right here, the Miami Dolphins is the one, Grump. Mm-hmm. Now, the biggest one in 2019, the owner of the Dolphins, Ross, asked and said, hey, Brian Flores, and this is stated by Brian Flores, and I guarantee you this was not in writing in the offer that Ross.
So Brian Flores was pissed in 2019. He didn't get the Denver job, but he did.
You don't even know. You don't even know what.
But he did get the Miami job in 2019.
He got the job. What was it in 2019, right?
Yeah. So so he didn't like the Denver interview, but he did get the Miami job. Okay.
Anyway, before you just derailed me off my process, Grump.
Sorry.
He's got him in there, and again, I say it was not written down, I'm sure, on paper anywhere, but he said Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, offered him a $100,000 bonus for every single loss the Miami Dolphins had that year. Brian Flores said, nope, it's not my DNA to go ahead and sign something like that. I'm sure they structured it differently to where the money was still in his pocket in some capacity. But the big news out of Miami is that they offered Brian Flores bonus and incentive to lose games in 2019 to improve their draft stock to pick a quarterback. After all the improvement and the losing they did that year, they still came in with Tua Tagovailoa. So
which is the guy they wanted.
Which is, as sad as that sounds. But
because people forget, he was projected to be the first pick in the draft going into that year. That was Joe Burrow's ascension, which dropped Tua.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. Do you think it's true that that Ross was offering or offered $100,000 to Brian Flores for every loss he had that year? Tank, essentially.
Unless there was a way to pay him without it showing up on the books, because you cannot possibly have any way for that to show up on the books. If you do, you're dead and buried. You're dead and buried. So do I believe that teams tank? Yes. Do I believe that he was, let's say they lost 16 games, he was going to pay him another $1.6 million?
What I can believe, now here's something I can believe happened. Do I think that happened? Absolutely. Do I think maybe they structured it like this? For every win,
bonus,
you'll receive a bonus of a certain dollar amount. But for every loss that is a competitive loss, that you don't lose, let's say, by some astronomical number, you don't lose by more than 50 points, we'll give you a $100,000 bonus or something like that. Maybe it was a very bonus-driven and incentivized contract. I don't know. But would it shock me at all if an owner said, I want you to tank and I want you to lose, so I'm going to incentivize you in a form of compensation to lose? Would that shock me? Absolutely not. They were in no man's land. They didn't have a quarterback. They wanted to go ahead and get position to have a quarterback. So they said, you know what we need to do? We need to embrace the tank. It's the same thing that fans say. Embrace the tank, get the better player. And once you have the quarterback, then we could be good. Would it shock me at all if the owner had the same thought process and tried to pay or offered Brian Flores compensation to do it? No, it would not shock me.
But it would have to be in some type of form of contract where there's paperwork for that. Because if there's not, where you have to draw a correlation. If you can't, it's just he said, she said. I mean, and it's not like
Steve lawyer, grumpy old man. I'm asking, do you think that's something that happened? I'm not asking you to be lawyered up or proven. I'm saying, do you think that would happen?
I absolutely think that they say, hey, if we lose, it's not a big deal. We want to get better draft position. Absolutely, that happens. It happens in every sport for teams that are down and out. Every single sport. If you don't think it happens, you're deluding yourself.
It's the first time, though, it gives a little bit of extra validity behind it, because nobody's ever had like a statement. No coach has ever come out there and say, "Oh yeah, they were telling me to lose at the end." No coach has ever said that. And Brian Flores comes out. Not only do they say, "Hey, we don't mind if you lose," but he wanted to incentivize the losing. Now we're like, people may be shocked, like, "Oh man, this is crazy for me." It does not shock me at all. And Grumpy, after you make that statement, I do have a conversation piece that Des Bryant made here about paying or purposely losing games or trying to lose games.
Okay.
Make your statement, and then I'm going to pull something up to let you know there's a video right after this.
Okay. I'm just going to say that if it was so offensive to Brian Flores, why didn't he report it to the league office? Right? Because if it was so offensive to you that now you have to file a lawsuit based on that, if it was so, don't come off as the angel when you could have reported that earlier, but you wanted to keep your job.
Well, I don't blame him for not reporting it, to be honest.
But now he is, right? But now he is. He doesn't get a head coaching job with the Giants. Oh, okay. I'm just saying, but he doesn't get a head coaching job with Giants, and now he's throwing all the dirty laundry out. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a good look. I'm just saying, if I was in his shoes and they offered me money to lose and I denied it, or I said, no, I don't want to do that, I wouldn't go and run and tell the league about that.
But people are just blindly believing right now everything Brian Flores is saying. I'm just saying there's two sides to every coin. That's all.
Okay. I'm letting you know. So I just gave you that earlier, how maybe they had it structured where a win was worth a certain dollar amount and a loss that you didn't lose by more than 50 games.
But that has to be in the contract.
Okay. Okay. I just said that is how I could imagine it being in the contract for the third time, Grump.
But I bet it's not.
Jesus.
I'm betting it's not.
Are you going to stop? I'm just trying to get a point out here. I wanted to bring up, I'm just saying that would it shock you if even they were just in contract negotiations, they were talking just rough generalities before they had anything on paper, like, hey, we could pay you for every loss. We want to get a better draft position. Would it shock you at all if they said something like that?
Before contract negotiations?
During contract negotiations.
No, I'm going to say no to that. That's after you know what your team is.
Alrighty, I'll let you listen to your Des Bryant, Grumpy.
I just read what the owner of the Dolphins tried to offer Brian Flores $100K to tank the season. I'm gonna tell y'all some crazy shit. The year that I got cut, and some athletes, I told athletes, hey man, I feel like our season getting sabotaged. That's just how I feel. There's no way that we should be running the same exact plays. I remember going into Coach Garrett's office, asking, hey man, I look forward to the game plan. Why am I lining up in the same place each and every week? Like if these guys on the other side not getting paid. There be times in the game I line up, I know I'm one-on-one. That don't even look my way. So many times on film, it was so many times on film, so that ball was not coming to me. So it got to the point where I got frustrated and I was like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm gonna air this shit out in the media. That's what I'm gonna do. Because at the end of the day, we the ones who take that heat. We the ones who got to deal with that shit. And I'm like, man, you know what, man? I can't deal with it. I told Terrence Williams and I told Cole Beasley. Right before I did that interview, this interview probably going to get me cut. And I was good with that. You can ask any one of them. I said, I was good with that. That shit don't surprise me. It's a lot of janky shit that goes on in the league. But hey, man, it is what it is. It is what it is. But all I know is I love the game of football. I like to play a fair game of football. I ain't ever in my life gonna disrespect the game of football with some bullshit. That shit over there in Miami, that owner, that's bullshit. Man, I'm behind Flores, Brian Flores.
What a shock.
Yeah.
And he goes, and he continues there. Here's the thing.
Again,
do you think there's any? I think there's truth behind that.
Okay.
I think that he probably did offer in some capacity to pay Flores per losses. Would it shock me? No, it would not.
Okay. I'm just saying that you have to find a way to pay a guy underneath the table. That's all I'm saying. Because
what does that say for the competitiveness in the sport? If true.
Well, what did I say? What did I say last week during all these championship games where every game comes down to last possession? Do you remember what I said?
Why don't you let people know, Grumpy, for the first time?
I'm going to. I just find it coincidental, since the NFL has gotten in bed with DraftKings, like we have, that all these games go right down to the end. it's almost like it's more of an, I just find it just really, really coincidental that every game comes down to the last second, last play, overtime. Just too coincidental for me that every game ends up like that. I just think there's too much money involved. Money corrupts people.
Yeah.
It just does. And now it's just so hypocritical. And I'm not a fan of the NFL because all I care about is money, period. Nothing else matters. I've said that 1,000 times. When you're in bed with sporting companies, there's no way that you cannot be corrupted. That's why they're supposed to have no gambling. Any player gets caught betting on games, they banish for life. But you have ownership in bed with DraftKings. Think about that. Just think about that. We're going to burn a player at the stake if they get caught gambling, but ownership is openly embracing it. That's hypocrisy at the highest level.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. And I'll tell you this here too, Grumpy.
There was a good meme. There was a good meme that went out. I'm sorry. It showed Brian Flores. I got 100,000. Hugh Jackson, who was with Cleveland, I got 50,000. And they show a picture of Adam Gase. You got paid?
Oh God.
Former coach of the Jets.
Yeah. Adam Gase, the former coach of the Jets. My God.
The guy with like this.
Yeah, he was a bad coach, awful coach.
He should have kept those glasses on. But how did he get elevated? Because he was a great quarterback coach. That's how those guys get elevated. An offensive coordinator. Those are the guys who get promoted.
Yeah. And again, we've made our statement very clear. We wanted Brian Flores here for the Giants. But I wouldn't be shocked at all about if that was the case. I think you look at what happened in Miami as well. Apparently, he had a little bit of an issue there regarding Tua, and he did not. And you could tell things, again, getting leaked to the media. Who knows what's true? Who knows what's fake regarding Brian Flores' end there in Miami? But he was, openly never a fan of Tua Tagovailoa since the start. And I'd be honest with you, Brian Flores isn't wrong about that. He saw the writing on the wall beforehand. He said, "Not this son of a gun. Please, no. We do not need him. You'd rather have a different quarterback." I mean, Herbert was the perfect selection for them. We talked about it on draft night.
Yep.
And and think about it. I'd be pissed too if I was Brian Flores. Like, imagine where our team would be if we had Justin Herbert instead of that bastard Tua Tagovailoa you made us select. So I mean, like, I know the personal skills and the blowback he had with people the big heads there with the Miami Dolphins. I know that probably didn't help his staying as the Miami head coach, even though he had a winning record at the end of the season, I think, too.
Who did?
Brian Flores this year.
No.
9-4 or something. Yeah, he had a winning record.
No.
Yes, 9-4.
They were 1-7, and I think they wound up being 8-9 or 9-8, something like that. They were terrible to start the year. It seems like every year they start off poorly. I don't know why. But one thing, Albert Breer,
Miami Dolphins 9-8.
Okay. Albert Breer of Monday Morning Quarterback reported that Chris Grier, who's the GM of the Dolphins, and Brian Flores had not talked for months at the end of last year, and somebody had to go. So Ross decided he was going to keep Grier, who's been with the organization for 20 years.
Yikes.
Who's also black. Okay. So it's not a race thing over Brian Flores.
And that's the wrong decision for the Dolphins. I mean, look how many draft picks. They got Waddle right. They get a few right. But you look how many of those draft picks that, Grier as a general manager has just screwed the pooch on. They've had so much draft capital, and he did a good job of trading away pieces and earning that draft capital. They had a little bit of luck along the way with like the Texans falling off the planet Earth and items like that. But you look at it and you say, why the hell did they keep the general manager over the head coach in that situation?
Right. But here's the thing. If you get rid of the GM's going to come in and hire his own coach anyway. So, but something had to happen in the offseason because we were stunned when Flores was let go. I mean, I'm like, why the hell are they dropping him? I think, like I said, I'm going to say it here again. I think he's a great coach. He's a leader of men. And that's what you want. That's what so many of these guys, they want to draft the hot name, the hot coordinator. Who's a leader? Because the nuts and bolts, that goes to the coordinators. But who's the leader of men? That's what you want. Brian Flores is one of those guys. He really is. I hope he didn't sabotage his career, honestly, for this. Because if he just would have held his water a little bit, he would have got another job. Everything is, I mean, I'm not saying that it's perfect because it's not, but it's not just head coaches. Everything percolates from the bottom. And you're starting to see that. I mean, the best people should get the jobs. I don't care about skin color. Who's the best? All I want to do is win. That's all I want to do. Call me crazy.
Yeah. Grumpy, I tell you, I think that it's going to be really tough for him to find another head coaching job, unfortunately. And
there was one other allegation that he made against Stephen Ross also, which I thought was just stupid. Stephen Ross knew that there was going to be a quarterback, an unrestricted free agent quarterback before the tampering period. Like nobody tampers in this league, please. Come on. And, he was going to be on his yacht and he wanted to know if Flores could go on the yacht and talk with this quarterback.
Oh God.
And the quarterback was Tom Brady.
Oh, really?
Who they have history. And Flores says, it went about I would never, ever do that to violate the rules. Please. You know what? That tells me right there, maybe you shouldn't be a head coach.
Everybody cheats. And do I think that maybe Brian Flores said, no, I'm going to stick by the rules? Yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all. I want to say the majority of people in that situation would have gone out there and been like, oh, look at that. I happen to run into you here. Oh, no way. I just got invited. I didn't know ahead of time, but now that I'm here, let me go eat some caviar. Let me go ahead and eat some on this super yacht that I'm on. Yeah, I'll drink some champagne. Yeah, I'll stick around a while. How are you, Tom? Yeah, we weren't talking about bringing him over here. We were just talking to Tom Brady about what a successful career. Are you retiring? Tom, I know you're a free agent, but I mean, when are you looking to retire? I mean, these Super Bowls, I haven't seen you in a while. How are you, Tom?
It's so disingenuous for him to even say that. Honestly, he's full of shit. Flat out. I'm going to call bullshit on Brian Flores on that. Absolute bullshit. Anybody Miami signs free agents, like every team does, they have the tampering period. All of a sudden, opening minute of the tampering period, you see, here are contracts and 4 years for $100 million for player X. Well, how did they come across that in 1 minute? Because they've been talking forever. Everybody tampers. Don't think that doesn't happen either. I just think he's being disingenuous when he says that. I just find that ridiculous.
Okay. I didn't know about that, and I didn't really care too much about that. It wasn't the big story on the headline. But
well, of course it's not the headline, but all these things add up. That's all I'm saying.
Alexander's saying here, as he's got his Miami garb on, he says, Flores' biggest issue is he had zero people skills. He was a complete asshole and couldn't build a staff there, sabotaging the offense. At the end of the day, he was a defensive coordinator posing as a head coach.
Now that's possible too. There are some guys who are better as coordinators.
Warzone saying here, Grumpy Old Man's like an encyclopedia for sports.
Thank you, Warzone.
1777 memorabilia says here, what's up, a Grumpy Old Man? Who do you have, Bengals or
I'm
Rangers?
saving that for next week, but I tell you, I'm leaning towards an animal. I'm just telling you, I'm leaning towards an animal.
Ram or Bengal.
Oh, that's right. They're both animals. I forgot.
Yep, and Alexander saying, yep, Flores stopped talking to his staff after Thanksgiving.
See, that's a problem.
And here's the thing, right, wrong, or indifferent, sometimes even in the work environment that we live in, right? We're not in the NFL, but there are sometimes where relationships sour and you need sometimes something to bring that together. And if you don't, then it's like, oh, I hate Susie. And it could have all started with, she took a few extra water bottles when they said one per person. And I didn't get a drink of water or something. It's something really small and minuscule that could really build, and the animosity builds between yourself and your staff. It's just not a good look, especially when you had so many hiring and firing of offensive coordinators and offensive line coaches.
And defensive coordinators. He only was there 3 years. He fired. That's too many fires for me. But here's the thing. It also could be like, you said like Susie and Mary don't get along. It's like Tom and Bill and Robert didn't get along, so they had to get divorced too.
Warzone saying here, Grumpy Old Man, you have a $5,000 to bet who wins the Super Bowl.
I wish Tom Brady was playing because I'd put all my money on him.
1777 memorabilia says Flores suing the NFL is like the mafia suing the mafia.
I see. Here's the thing that Flores doesn't realize. All these things that went on in the organization during the season here are going to come out if it goes to trial. But the NFL, one thing they're petrified of, they don't want the books being opened up or any of that stuff. Discovery is death for them.
You know,
So they'll try
here's
to
the
pay
thing.
him
They're
off.
going to, I don't know about that. They're going to try to bury the living shit out of him and everything. Here's the thing. Like, the reason I think that people will also make a case never to hire Brian Flores, and who is a good coach, might I add again,
Excellent.
because they're going to look at it and they're going to say, oh, well, hold on a second. Things turn sour. And now all of a sudden, all of our private conversations, all of these items that I thought I had, trust with a guy, to where, let's say he did offer him $100,000. That's not something you would expect to go public or to be leaked out. I mean, like, I can't have a conversation behind closed doors with our head coach. I mean, how could I really trust a guy like that? So, like, I think it hurts the trust factor for Brian Flores, and and that too. Again, it's unfortunate that he's fallen on the sword here. And again, I think that, given time, he would get a job, and I think he's a fantastic coach.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that the whole thing's happening. I am looking to see what happens, though. I hope that all the information does come out, because hey man, I'm like giddy like a schoolgirl. I wish they released all the information that came out regarding the emails, the Washington Redskins team's emails at that time period. Only a select few were released, and I think that there were so many skeletons in the closet. And I think with these items that we're going to see text messages, meetings, we'll see something. The juicy details we'll see with Brian Flores against the NFL are going to be crazy.
But I'm going to say just 2 quick points, and then we'll get to comments. If you're an owner and you want to hire him or a GM, and you look at this and it's like, well, gosh, if things go sour here, is he going to cry racism? Because they don't want to deal with that. They don't. Football is a closed society. It is. You might not like it, but that's just the way it is. These guys are freaking billionaires. They own these billion-dollar franchises. They're not going to do anything to jeopardize that. They're just not. Why do you think guys like Brian Schottenheimer, Steve Belichick, Brian Belichick, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, all these guys are getting jobs because of who their daddies were in the league or who their grandfathers were in the league? That's what I mean by closed society. And it's tough to get in there, white or black.
I was about to say, it's not the grades you make, and it's not the performance you had, but instead it's the hands you shake, the people that you know, and the people that you've been ingratiated with, and the people that you've known since a kid. You're right. Look at how many of these coaches. It's not like, okay, he grew up, his dad was McVay. So, he got every single day at the dinner table, they used to strategize about football, and they used to do the same exact thing there for the Shanahan. No, it's because you got the last name of Shanahan that you were able to get your foot in the door to start off. And instead of you being 40 or 50 years old after having to climb your way through high school, college, and then the NFL, you said, oh, I could not play in the NFL like some of these guys do. And then, I played college, but I'm going to go ahead and get a job as I'm going to get a job as a smaller coach on the NFL team. I'm going to be underneath dad, and he's going to promote me up to a wide receiver coach. And then once dad leaves, I'm going to go jump and be an offensive coordinator somewhere else, and I'm gonna go ahead and levy that into being a head coach. It's all nepotism. A lot of it's nepotism. A lot of it is.
That's right. Yes.
Jeremy F saying, good night, fellas. Have a great Friday and weekend. Thanks for the show. Sorry I have to bail.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Oh man. Oh, Jarrell said, forgot to say hi to TJ as well. Hey, about 25 out of the 32 points tonight in his team. He got mercy ruled. Oh, God. Yikes.
I don't know. I see even shitty teams have to have somebody who puts up points, Drew.
Oh, Drew's the MVP on a bad team.
There you go. He's Mariusz Tchaikovsky from the 90s, late 90s.
1777 memorabilia says, grumpy old man, we got to raise $100,000 to buy a football team, a football game. Oh,
yeah.
Oh man. And this is something we're going to talk about here in the next podcast, because there was a lot that came out regarding the portal and a lot of drama with that. But with Brian Flores and Tom Brady, we just couldn't.
So much. This was such a busy news week.
Yep. John M saying, with recruiting, national letter, name, image, and likeness, transfer portal, and college football today, NFL coaches will not go to college to get a defensive or an offensive coordinator experience, to create a progression in experience to prepare potential NFL head coaches.
Okay.
Welcome.
I don't understand the comment.
He's saying that with such high turnover rates, you're not going to see coaches go down to be an offensive or defensive coordinator in college.
In
Sometimes
college,
they're a position coach. They're not going to go down to college and do that because there's so quick turnover and it's hard to get a progression of a team and build something.
Yeah, it's like free agency every year. Everybody's free every year.
Yep. And that's kind of what that means.
No continuity. Yep.
Oh my God. Here we go. And I've seen a lot of these memes here. Alexander sent us one. Grumpy old man. John Elway.
Gary Busey. The old Gary Busey. Now, if he looked like that, I'd have to make some questions. Now, does Flores have a picture of this?
What was that?
Does Flores have a picture? Hey,
I'm sure there's video everywhere. So, I mean, if you see like, he's stumbling in, he's like, whoa, he's stumbling in, he's hitting walls and stuff like that after a night on a bender. I'm not sure. John M saying here, Grump, Anthony and myself care about the Dolphins. Show your respect. LOL.
I thought I was showing a lot of respect to them. I did laugh at one point in time. I forgot what it was about, though.
B. Bean says here, in the NBA, they have coaching diversity. The NFL can do it, period.
The players run the teams in the NBA. Coaches don't run the teams.
I was about to say, NFL coaches, I think, are a lot better than NBA coaches regarding
NFL is totally different from NBA, too.
You can have a strict, hard-handed NFL coach, and teams will listen. I don't think you can have that. It's tougher to have that in the NBA because the players hold a lot more power than the players in the NFL do. I mean, one or two players could hold a lot of power, like your quarterback could hold power, your star wide receiver, a star running back. Those guys can hold power, but your offensive linemen, they don't hold much power. You're running. Go ahead, go.
Yeah, and my point is you have a lot more coordinators and position coaches who are black now. You just do. There were women on the sidelines for Tampa Bay, for example, for San Francisco. I mean, you have that. Maybe not in the head job, but that's what happens. It's a progress. 15 years ago, how many black position coaches were there? Not a whole lot. But there's more and more. It just takes time. You don't go from, oh, I want to be a head coach and you're a head coach. It's a progression. It's a progression.
John M saying, give Trotz money to tank. That'd be nice.
I think they are paying for that, aren't they?
Alexander said 2019 first two games, Baltimore 59-10, week 2 versus New England 43-0, and then at Dallas 31-10.
Yeah, they struggled out of the chute every year he was there.
B. Bean says that also explains why Brian Flores was fired with a winning record. Yeah. And breaking news, Doug Peterson, oh my God, to the Jaguars. How many more mistakes can the Jags make? What a dumb hire.
Right? Who did the Jacksonville Jaguars want for their head coaching position?
Yeah, they wanted him.
Byron Leftwich.
Yes.
The offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay. He said he didn't want to go there unless Trent Baalke was gone as GM. Well, that's why he didn't get the job.
Well, here's the thing too. If I'm Byron Leftwich, if I have maybe feel like I can get a job somewhere else, I'm not going to get saddled with a shitty general manager. Here's the thing: coaches are important. A shitty general manager can screw a coach over every which way. And I look at Brian Flores, screwed by Greer. Not even funny. Just think about what he did with freaking Tua as the quarterback. 9-8 with Tua Tagovailoa as the quarterback. How much better? Seriously, they'd be a 10 or 11 win team this year. At least maybe 11, maybe a 12 win team this last year if they had Justin Herbert. Because remember, they lost the bad game to Jacksonville overseas, and they lost a lot of those really, really close and bad games against bad competition with Tua at quarterback. And he had also the backup into at times, so it was in Brissett. It was tough.
Okay, but here's the thing: Leftwich could have had the job if he wanted to. He didn't want it bad enough.
You don't. Well, here's the thing.
Well, he didn't want.
You don't want to tarnish. Once you get your first shot, this is the thing with the NFL. Once you get your first shot, unless you have a really good relationship with another general manager, or unless you have a really good relationship or do well, you could seriously never get another head coaching gig again if you do poorly on your first one.
Look at how many years it took Josh McDaniel to get another job.
He got offered before and he denied. What was it? The Colts?
That was the Colts in 2016. Think about that. So it was another 6 years before he got another offer.
Do you think he was interviewing all over the place or no?
No. Because he wanted to be perfect. It had to be a perfect situation for him. He wanted the GM to be the right guy, and that's what happened. Ziegler left New England, and with McDaniels to take over the Raiders. And that's what maybe that. Here's the thing, but it's not like Byron Leftwich was offered the job and he turned it down. Now, here's the thing. Do I blame him for turning down that job? No. Doug Peterson, why did he get that job? He's a goof, but he did win a Super Bowl one year. How long do you think he lasted?
Such a shitty coach. He is such a shitty coach. And you look at that and you think to yourself, I would rather take a complete gamble. Doug Peterson's a miserable coach.
How long does he last in Jacksonville? 2 years?
2 years maximum.
Maybe.
And I'm like, I feel bad now for Trevor Lawrence. Sorry, Trevor. Your career is pretty much done. Sorry.
I mean, it all depends on who he brings in as assistants. I don't think much of him as a head coach. He looks like a goof on the side. He looks like a Bruce Arians at training, just a goof. But, here's the thing. He wasn't the favorite for that job. It was Byron Leftwich. And I don't blame Leftwich for not taking that. Here's the thing. The owner should have known better. Balke was a failed GM in San Francisco, and he's been a failed GM in Jacksonville. Eventually, you have to get rid of the GM. But GMs have longer lives than coaches do. They just do.
My God. How old is Trent Balke? He looks kind of young.
He is young.
57?
I don't know how old he is.
He's 57.
Okay, that's not old. I don't consider that old anyway.
B. Bean says, Grumpy, it's a cumulative effect on Brian Flores. Not just one action. Before that, Brian Flores was a team organization guy, team organization player.
I don't know.
It was from a while ago, so I apologize. And then John M says, second thought, Trott's playing 30-year-old players and not playing the young guys. He is getting paid to tank.
Is Josh Bailey getting paid extra to tank?
I don't know. B-Bean says Brian Flores is sacrificing himself for change. I think it's unfortunate for Brian Flores. I think the change was coming. And I think the change is coming. And it's like, here's the thing, right? I think always the best at it should get the job. I'm sick and tired of always seeing the Shanahan. And Shanahan kid's a good coach, right? Let's be honest there. It's a good coach. But how many of those coaches, like the Grudens, like you look at the one now, or you look at the one
Jay
at Ole
Gruden's
Miss.
not coaching anymore. Jay Gruden's not coaching anymore.
What do you mean?
Jay Gruden is no longer coaching.
Okay, no, I understand. But what's his the Ole Miss coach, right?
John.
Yeah, I was about to say he was miserable at every single stop he had. Look how many freaking chances John Gruden got, and he's been good for Ole Miss.
No. John Gruden was a really good coach. I don't know what you're talking about. He won a Super Bowl. He was fantastic.
John Gruden was with the Raiders. I'm sorry, Lane Kiffin. I'm thinking of Kiffin. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Lane Kiffin. Think about the Kiffins. Again, there's so many of these. My dad coached in the NFL, therefore I've got myself a head coaching job that it's hard to keep track of. Lane Kiffin was a miserable coach at every single stop he had. He finally found success. He was okay at FAU, and he's been good for Ole Miss. But in the NFL, every single stop he had, Lane Kiffin was a miserable coach.
He had one stop. He had one stop in the NFL.
He was an offensive. How many times was he a coordinator?
He once he got bounced out of that head coaching job for the Raiders, he was busted all the way down. He went from head coach at USC, then he went to the head coach for the Raiders. Then he got busted down because he was so bad, and then he had to work his way up. And now he's working his way up through the college ranks. At least he's continued to work at his craft. I'll give him credit for that. He was handed the job
only
because he's one of those. Huh?
He's only 46.
Yeah, but when he was handed the job, he was like, what, 33, 34 years old? I mean, that's when he started. But, I mean, now he's working his way back. I'm not saying he's ever going to be a pro coach again. But, he's carved out. He's done a good job for Ole Miss, and he did a good job at FAU.
Okay. All I'm saying is when I mean how does a guy like this elevate himself to the NFL level, look at his time at USC, right? For Tennessee, 7-6. Left Tennessee and took an upgrade to USC. 7-6 at Tennessee was enough to get you an upgrade to one of the best teams in the Pac-12. 8-5, 10-2, 7-6, 3-2. That was a 110-win season over a 4-year stretch was good enough to get you a head coaching job in the NFL in college. I'm just saying it's always the hand you shake, not your actual grades that get you to the places you need to be.
But Al Davis was notorious for doing that. He did it with John Madden, right? Who was 32 years old when he gave him the head coaching job. Worked out pretty good. He hired the first black head coach, Art Shell, former offensive tackle for the Raiders. He'd never been a head coach anywhere. That worked out pretty good the first time around. I mean, Al Davis he didn't give a shit about colors. He didn't give a crap if you had the right pedigree. Best players play. Best coaches coach. That's what Al Davis was always about.
I'm just saying Kiffin got his job because of his dad too.
I agree that helped.
Jesus Christ. He started off. Yeah, I don't even want to get too much into it, but man, oh man. Sorry, shit. Alexander saying here, as a season ticket holder for 2019 season, I'm pissed, beyond pissed. And if you think that tanking is okay, then we should have a conversation.
Here's the thing that it happens. Okay, remember suck for luck? How did the Colts do it? They determined, okay, well, we're not going to play Peyton Manning, even though he could have came back, and we had our second string quarterback get hurt. We're going to play a fourth string, a guy named Painter. They wanted to make sure they got the first pick in the draft, and that's how they did it. Were they paying guys? I have no idea. Maybe not. But they put out a lesser product on the field every day.
Here's the thing. You had the chance to pick the quarterback you wanted. If, let's say, you tried to really compete and you were trying to be competitive every single season, okay, we're going to put every piece around, we're going to put every single piece around Ryan Fitzpatrick that we possibly can, so we're going to be successful. We're going to put every piece around XYZ quarterback to try to be successful. You're going to live in mediocrity. You cannot win a Super Bowl in the NFL with a mediocre quarterback. It's as simple as that. You have to have a top-tier quarterback. And unfortunately, the only way to get a top-tier quarterback is an early draft pick. And the shitty thing about this, icing on the shit cake, is a lot of those top quarterbacks that are drafted early flop out. So, you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, not only do I have to be bad in order to get myself a chance and a crack at a top-tier quarterback to win a Super Bowl, but the majority of the quarterbacks that are picked early don't pan out.
You know, you could get lucky and would pick 199, get somebody like this right here. The greatest of all time. You know him.
E. Bean says money makes people do bad things.
100% agree with that.
Yep. And then John P. says Major League Baseball has requested the assistance of a federal mediator to help resolve the labor issues between the league and the MLB Players Association.
Why did they do that right away? Why did they do that right away?
Couldn't tell you. And then Alexander says there was also a lawsuit that in the winter of 2020. Okay, yeah, Ross invited Flores onto his yacht to promote or try to convince a prominent quarterback that was Brady. Flores refused to do so. Yep.
I'm sorry. You got to play ball with something like that. I'm sorry. Every team does that.
And Alexander says, TJ, not true. He said Flores. That Flores wanted Tua. That's a BS narrative because Greer would have gotten the quarterback that Flores wanted. Or here's the thing, too. What I believe that could happen is his first job as a head coach, and he could say, this is the guy we're infatuated with. You know, if he's on the board, this is who we're going to take. And you know what I mean? If you're told when you take the job, this is the guy we're going to be looking for. This is, you know, when we're selecting, if we have a chance, this is what they're gearing up towards all year long. And hey, Tua slips, Burrow has the ascension. He plays fantastic. All right, this is our guy. He slipped to us. Fantastic. We've got a chance to do it. I'm not sure. And then TJ, and he says, TJ, you can only judge Greer on the last 3 years. In the last 3 years drafting, he has been less than stellar. I was about to say less than stellar. You draft guys in the first round that don't play for you. That's out of the Bill Belichick book of stuff.
He reached on so many players. They were lined up, really lined up. I just think about what they could be, honestly, if they had a good scouting staff or what. I don't know what how their organization runs down there, but man, if your scouts are picking these guys over some of the other players, they need to go.
Think about how many first round picks they had. And even let's look at the last 3
They've
years.
had like 8 in the last 3 years, haven't they?
Oh, in the last 3 years, they've had 6 first round picks. And you look at second round picks, you've had 4 second round picks. And you look at third round picks, you've had 3 third round picks in the last 3 years. I mean, you've had a lot of draft capital. You've had a lot of chances. I mean, oh, Jesus. I mean, you think about Christian Wilkins. Is he fantastic in that 2019 draft?
He's picked way too high.
Absolutely way too high.
What was he picked like? What was it, 4th, 5th?
No. He was picked 13th.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Dexter Lawrence. I mean, like Dexter Lawrence has done a better job. Jeffrey Simmons for Tennessee's done a pretty good job. If you're looking strictly at D tackle, there were a lot of good players in that draft. I mean, think about Montez Sweat, who slipped in that year's draft too. There were a lot of good players in that year's drafts, fantastic players. And you're just like, oh,
You always draft. You never draft for position. You draft for best player available.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. Even Josh Jacobs, they don't have a running back. Tell me Josh Jacobs couldn't do a good job there.
Yeah, running backs are a dime a dozen. I'm not picking a running back in the first round unless it's somebody truly incredible, like Saquon Barkley.
Don't get me started on that bastard.
That was for you. That was for you.
I was about to say, and 2020 draft. Yikes, man. I mean, it was Tua, Austin Jackson.
How'd you like to be fans of the New York teams this year? 4 picks between them in the first 10.
It's something to be excited about. That's for certain. I mean, something to be excited about. And then John M saying, being an Auburn guy and a Dolphin guy, it killed me when the Fins.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, we talked that draft night. I'm like, he's not that good.
He's not the answer. It's as simple as that. Oh, Jesus. Oh, and you look at Noah. Oh, I can't even pronounce his name. I remember the corner there. They just had made so many picks in first round reaches where they don't even start. And the NFL, if you draft a guy in the first round, they have to play for you immediately. If not, they've got to be a quarterback who learns 1 year under a fantastic QB, and then he's gone. You know what I mean? But yikes, just so many missed picks.
Yeah.
We're getting back to the comments. So, Grumpy, he's not a leader at all. He's an asshole.
He does not like Alexander. Does not like Brian Flores. We know that.
I like Brian Flores. Bean says, Grumpy, that is good in theory, but that is not the American way. I don't know what it is. John M saying, TJ, a broken clock is right twice a day. Greer getting a couple picks correct is like a broken clock. Flores needed to stay. Greer needed to go. I agree.
I mean, now here's the thing, though, right? Then another thing you see with these owners, they reward loyalty. They just do. They do. They want the people. Here's the thing. Their company, which is the teams, make money. That's what they care about the most, is making money. Yep. Nothing else is as important as making money. And loyalty and knowing people you can trust is more important to them than putting out winning football for a lot of owners.
Alexander saying Giselle wanted to come to Miami. She did not want to go to Tampa.
All Flores had to do was get on the yacht, and they could have had him. Could have had a Super Bowl championship, Alexander.
I'm not sure about that. But Tony G's saying here, I think offering a coach money to tank and teams just tanking their season hurts the game. It does. I feel like players should always get on the field and just try to win no matter what the record is. Now, I think the players don't tank. The players, I don't think tank. It's their livelihood. It's what they get paid on. If I play poorly, even if it's like, hey, I get an incentive to throw 5 picks a game, they're going to never find themselves another job ever again. The players don't tank. The coaches, I think, can and do.
I'm going to pose a question, and maybe we can talk about this in the future. I'm going to pose it to the listeners. Do you ever wonder how it is that Las Vegas is able to predict the point spreads of 95% of the games within a point? You ever notice that? How is that possible?
Because they're just really smart, Grumpy. They're just really smart.
How do you see a team go for a 2-point conversion to cover the spread like the Eagles did this year against Tampa Bay? In the last drive, they went for a 2-point conversion where all they needed was a point and then a touchdown and a 1-point conversion. And it's the same thing, right? How does that happen?
The analytics. Now, that specific one, I had a friend email me about back when I used to play. He'd emailed me about how he wanted more of an analytical coach. And they posed this: if you go for the 2-point conversion, you have a higher likelihood of hitting the 2-point conversion, right? If they looked at how many extra points are hit, if you're 14 points down, you've got a 53.6% chance of hitting the 2-point conversion. You've only got an 87% chance of hitting the extra point. Well, you then can go for the 2-point conversion again. You'll have a higher chance to hit maybe at least 1 2-point conversion than you would have if you miss a kick there, an extra point. It was a whole bunch of BS. I'm just like, man, I'm not an analytics guy.
I just think it's really interesting that happens when the spread is a certain amount and all of a sudden it flips just like that. I don't know, in the last couple of minutes of a game. I just find it interesting how Las Vegas is able to predict the spreads almost, because Las Vegas never loses money. Never freaking ever. They always win money. How do they do it? I mean, occasionally they pick wrong, but they make money because they're able to pit one against the other. How do they know? It's interesting. Just saying. Brian Flores might have recordings.
Be careful.
I hope he does.
Alexander's saying here, what's fishy? I'm sorry. What's fishy is was there still there 2 more years, and he was given more control of the roster.
Flores?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what they would do. I don't know what they're.
Terrell said, "Why you gotta diss me like that, Grump? Watch the video. I went ballistic."
I'm just saying your team got blown out. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man. Hey, but you did.
Maybe you should have elevated. Maybe you should have been like the great Tom Brady and elevated your teammates playing, won a championship.
John M. saying, guys, I worked for the Dallas Stars for 10 years. The NHL is the same way. It's the good old boys trusting system.
Without a doubt. I mean,
Alexander says Flores was 14-9 with Tua as a starter. TJ Flores was not screwed by Greer. That was a bunch of bull. That's a bunch of bull. Here's the thing.
I think TJ was intimating with his poor drafting at screwed Flores.
Yes, and here I know he was 14-9. Could you imagine what the record would be with Justin Herbert if he was 14-9 with Tua? And you'll watch the Dolphins. Did the Dolphins have their next coach picked out? I can't remember yet.
No,
I can promise you a worse than a 9-4 record next season, guaranteed, unless you bring in a legitimate quarterback.
9-4.
A 9-8. I'm sorry, you'll have a worse record next year than you did this year, unless you bring in a legitimate quarterback.
Why not Deshaun Watson?
Yeah.
Why don't they bring in Deshaun Watson? He wanted to go there. Maybe he doesn't now, but he certainly did before.
Dave Gettleman's a prime example. Now, Dave Gettleman used to be good for the Panthers, and he went to the Giants, and it just,
he came from the Giants. He came from the Giants as an assistant GM, and then he went to Carolina, turned them around, then went back to the Giants and was a flop. And now he's out of football.
B Bean says, what if Belichick sent the text to Brian Flores on purpose? This could have been a way of Bill Belichick's way to force this discussion or to disparage Brian Dabo or the Giants in some sort of way.
That's right. Bill Belichick he's the marionette running everything in the league.
Would it shock you at all? Bill Belichick is a spiteful son of a bitch. Would it? Okay, here's the question.
Loves the Giants.
Now, does he? No, I'm not saying he doesn't love the Giants. Does he have a really good relationship with Brian Flores? Was this a way? If he didn't, again, I'm not saying I didn't know what type of relationship he had with Brian Flores. Was it with a good or bad one? If you don't even have his last name saved in your phone and you confuse him with other Brians, if we're under that assumption, I assume you don't have a great relationship. You couldn't tell what his number was. I'm just saying, do you think he doesn't like Brian Flores and he just sent that text message as a way to rub it in?
No,
I was just hey,
I'm hearing that narrative that Bill knows all. You know, he knows everything.
He's playing 40 chess while everybody else is playing checkers.
He's the puppet master manipulating all these teams. No, sorry.
Alexander said the Jags game, he called a timeout with 7 seconds. Yeah, that was about to say. We watched that game.
We watched that game, right, TJ? And
it was like Urban Meyer and Brian Flores are both doing their best to lose.
We commented on that, and I said, look at Flores. I said, he's trying to lose this game. I said, and then Myers out there trying to out-loser him. And they just went back and forth until, that was a bad game.
Warzone saying, what's the sacrifice? A $50 million check in the NFL about to shell out. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think they're going to settle outside of court?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They say they don't want to. Anytime it gets to the discovery phase, here's your money.
Okay.
It's always about money. It's always about money.
Okay. You definitely think it's going to do it. Okay. Gotcha. Fair enough. I'm
not saying that Brian Flores isn't right on things, but he's looking out for himself. He could try to say that he's worried about others. Bullshit. He's caring about himself, and I don't blame him. He should.
Alexander saying, Atlanta game, Tua leads them to a touchdown drive with 1 minute and 7 seconds left to put them up 28-27 leads. All the defense had to do was just one freaking stop and couldn't do so. Come on, TJ. I love you. And Grump, Tua has given them the lead multiple times, and the defense is screwed up.
Yeah, I don't think much is Tua. You like Tua, Alexander, way more than I do.
He had 16 passing touchdowns and 10 picks this year. You're
His
not
arm
going to hear
isn't
me
good enough.
you're not going to hear me singing the praises of a guy who someone saw an interception and touchdown a game basis there. Not going to happen. Sorry, man. You had the other option, and sooner or later, Alexander, you're going to see it the same way we're saying here. You could, just like with Daniel Jones, there are Giants fans out there that still want Daniel Jones to be the answer and think he could be the answer. And those fans, I'm like, dude, he is not the answer. If he doesn't immediately grab you and shake you into submission saying, I'm the quarterback, they're not the answer. There's too many quarterbacks out there that are not the answer as to who is the answer. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
If he's the answer, I don't even know what the question is.
Looky there, Grumpy. Looky there. Oh, yeah, I'm just saying 16 passing touchdowns this season. I mean, like in 12 starts, he had 2,600 yards. He was averaging 204 passing yards a game.
Yeah, he's not real good.
It's not like Miami had a fantastic stat run game either. And again, I get he has pressure in his face. All quarterbacks are better when they have time in the pocket. I get it. I understand.
His arm strength is not very good, period. Just not.
And then Druell said, Gruden was one of the most underrated, worst coaches in the NFL with the Raiders.
Not the first time through. He was not. He was a good coach the first time through with the Raiders. And he took an underachieving Tampa team when Tony Dungy was head coach and turned them into Super Bowl winners.
John P. says, just win, baby.
That's Al Davis.
Who's that, Grump? I'll let you read this one. Rich,
I feel bad for Rich Piscata. Though he would have been better than Peterson, in my opinion. He was the interim coach for the Raiders. No, he's an interim coach for a reason. Team in turmoil, bring him on. He's a position coach. I don't think much of Peterson either.
Alexander saying that suck for luck lost Jim Caldwell his job.
Yeah, I think it was more than that lost Caldwell is not a great coach either. He's okay. He's just like any of the run-of-the-mill guys that, you fill in when your team is, it's nothing special about him. I'd lump him in with 100 other, not 100, but, 15 coaches in the league right now. Just not that good.
Yeah, okay. That was kind of okay. Let me ask you about that, though. That is odd, right? Because Jim Caldwell was there when Peyton Manning was there, correct? Towards the tail end. And once Peyton left, they went 2 for 4.
He was not
2-14. I'm sorry.
I don't think he was the head coach when Caldwell was the head coach when Peyton was there.
I'll pull it up, Grumpy, but just buy me some time, huh?
Okay, yeah, I don't think he was. So whatever. I think there were a lot of guys in the interim, before Peyton.
Nope,
left.
Peyton Manning. Nope. Okay, so he had Peyton Manning for the first 2 years as a coach, and then his third year. I never understood the firing of Jim Caldwell, and I thought, okay, you put him as an average coach. Okay, 14-2 the first year he was in Indianapolis, 10-6 the year after. Then Peyton Manning left, or Peyton Manning got hurt. He had that neck surgery. Then they went 2-14. They drafted Andrew Luck, and that's right, he was canned after that.
Then he went to Detroit, and what was his records there?
Detroit, he was 11-5 first year in Detroit, 7-9, 9-7, 9-7. Okay, but let's look at it. Has Detroit done any better since Jim Caldwell left?
No.
Hell no is the answer.
But,
I mean,
but I'm saying,
yeah.
I don't think Jim Caldwell is a great coach. He's a guy, like I said, he's a guy you could have put in Jacksonville. Why not?
Yeah,
I'd lump him in with Peterson, Doug Peterson.
No, he's a better coach than Peterson. I understand Peterson won a Super Bowl. I get it. Okay. I understand. They got lucky to win that Super Bowl. They got lucky there with Nick Foles. You're right, Grumpy? Okay.
Yeah, I had to scratch the bottom of my leg. Is that okay?
Oh,
why is it every time I move?
About to die, and I was going to have to carry the rest of the podcast myself the way you sat up all urgently.
Yeah, I had to scratch. I had an itch on my damn leg. Is that okay? Why every time I move, I got to hear from you?
Oh, man. B. Bean says, Teach, I disagree. The high pick of Ryan Leaf was not a flop. Laugh my ass off. Alexander saying 2019, he drafted Christian Wilkins. And in 2020, Austin Jackson, Tua, and Noah Iggy. But Austin Jackson has improved at guard. Here's the thing. You don't draft guards in 19 overall.
You don't.
Wherever he was
right.
picked.
That's right. And here's the thing. He's underweight. That was his problem. He was just light, too light.
I liked Austin Jackson. I think he has a way to grow, but he's one of those guys that has a higher ceiling, but he had such a long way to go to be ready. And I'm like, for the situation they're in, I'm like, you need somebody who's more day one ready than Austin Jackson.
They didn't need to draft him that high. That's the problem they were doing. They were taking a guy who was consensus day 2, and they picked him in the first round. And Noah wasn't even projected to go in the first round. I'm sorry. It was a mistake. And Tua was a flat out bust. That should have been Justin Herbert. My brother's a huge Dolphins fan, and they wanted Tua. We want Tua. I'm like, no, you don't. You want Justin Herbert. He's better. Now they realize it. Too late.
Mm-mm. And then Wilkins has turned out to be a damn good player.
He's more of a run stuffer type, though, isn't he?
I was about to say I don't know, Alexander.
I mean,
you can find to be a damn good player as a D tackle, you're putting up sacks, right? I mean, you're a guy who could bring it. I mean, to be a guy who clogs holes and could stop the run, that's important, but it's not.
Aaron Donald is the one true defensive tackle that you say is a damn good player.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can just plug guys. It's not a pass rush position. You can fill in with veterans with that.
Iggy couldn't see the field because of Byron Jones and Howard. Iggy was an insurance policy, so you used the first round pick on insurance policy. See, it's like when the Patriots way back in the day drafted Jimmy Garoppolo in the second round. What was the need for drafting a quarterback there? You didn't need him, and
there was a reason because of Tom's age and contract status.
What about the 2021 Greer draft? He nailed it. Waddle and then Jalen Phillips, 9.5 sacks. Jalen Holiday is going to be a star. Brandon Jones, who's looking like he's going to be a good safety. Did better this year. But I'm like, on the draft that really freaking mattered, he didn't do well.
Right.
So, I mean, like, if you're going to have – because guess what? It's going to be about 2 or 3 years more until they're like, once Tua's entry-level deal's up, do you say, let's go ahead and pay Tua Tagovailoa $30 or $35 million a year to keep him as our quarterback? The answer to that question is going to be no. So you're going to be in the same situation trying to find a new QB. B. Bean says, Grumpy's following the money to DraftKings. LOL.
Always about money, B. Bean. Always about money.
With Barkley, with Barley, with Bailey, any weapons? I don't know. Is that meant to be Barkley? I hate Barkley. Barkley's a freaking waste. He was a waste of a pick, and you do not draft running backs in the top 5. You don't draft running backs in the top 10. You do the likelihood that your running back is going to be a generational talent like an Adrian Peterson is, or a guy who, is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer is so freaking slim. Do not piss away an early pick on a freaking running back. Here's the other thing too. Look how many other quarterbacks that were in that draft. Think about it. We've got Daniel Jones. They could have picked Josh Allen. Josh Allen was in the same draft that the Giants stupidly pissed away a pick on Saquon Barkley.
Okay. And I was higher on Josh Allen than anyone TJ.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, if you were right, if your scouts really earned their money and they said, because Sam Darnold went the pick right after, and then 2 or 3 or whatever, it's 7th overall, there were Josh Allen, right? If you had your scouts that looked at it and say, oh, we like Josh Allen, or we've got a quarterback there, instead you said, we'll pick the best player on the board. He's fantastic, Saquon Barkley. I'm sorry. Do not piss away an early pick on a running back. It's the dumbest thing your franchise can ever do. Look at even Minnesota. Minnesota wasn't good with Adrian Peterson. I mean, they had a few years they were okay, but I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, do not piss away an early pick on a running back. Simple.
Yeah. Adrian Peterson was different.
That is the one exception. That is how is Ezekiel Elliott looking right now for the Cowboys?
They don't have a long shelf life. They don't.
That's why you don't pick them that early. That's why you don't pick them that early.
Well, it's why you don't give him a second contract.
Okay, so you would pick up a guy and have him on a 5-year contract with a 1-year extension. You give him the player or the team extension. So you're going to pick a guy in a top 5, top 10 pick so you can have him for 5 years for your franchise, as opposed to a quarterback that's a crapshoot but could be with your team for 15, 16 years.
It depends on what is on your team at the time.
If you have an early pick, in all likelihood, you do not.
I told you Daniel Jones was a terrible pick for them. I mean, we knew that. He was a consensus maybe pick 50, and they picked him in the first round. It was just dumb.
Because they need a quarterback because he screwed up originally by drafting Barkley. It was as simple as that.
Okay, there we
go. Brian B. Bean says Brian Flores could have kept his mouth shut and kept making millions working in the NFL, but he determined that, hey, I hope he gets another job. Here's the thing. I hope he does, and because he's a good coach.
He is good.
I hope he doesn't. I just hope it doesn't blackball him out of the league. That's the thing I worry about, that he has blackballed himself essentially out of the league.
I
Because he's
will
a good
say,
coach, right? Like when they look, people try to draw comparisons between Colin Kaepernick and Brian Flores. Do not disparage Brian Flores like that. Colin Kaepernick was a below to an average quarterback his entire career. I believe Brian Flores is a legitimate good coach. Big difference.
There's
Colin Kaepernick talent level was not the same talent level that Brian Flores is.
he was a backup in a woeful San Francisco team when he took his stand. Woeful.
And
he would never have done what Brian Flores did. Never.
I've always made this statement too. Colin Kaepernick was a backup at the time period that all this started happening with, the statements he was making politically. The one thing football teams do not want is distractions. They do not want distractions pulling away from the team goal. And I say Colin Kaepernick and Tim Tebow are they're the same exact person. They're both bad quarterbacks, and they're both distractions. Whether you think
Tebow was not a distraction.
Hold on, wait. Whether you think they're positive or negative distractions. Tim Tebow was a very religious guy. He got a lot of notoriety, a lot of press. Everything was always about Tim Tebow anywhere he went. He goes and signs up as a backup quarterback in New England, signs up as a backup quarterback in Philadelphia. Everything's always about Tebow. Everything's pulling away from the team. Same exact thing happened with Colin Kaepernick. I'm just saying they're both media distractions, whether they're good media distractions or bad media distractions. They're media distractions nonetheless.
Yeah, Tim Tebow was not a media distraction. And you say, first of all, he didn't make another NFL roster after leaving Denver.
That's not true.
You want to know why? Because he wasn't good enough. That's why he didn't make it. He wasn't a good enough quarterback. The same thing with Colin Kaepernick. He was a second stringer at the end of his time in San Francisco because he couldn't grasp the offense. Those are just facts.
Yep, and he took over for Dungy, 2 playoff appearances. You can't elevate a quarterback in only 2 years. Evaluate a quarterback in only 2 years.
Well, with the money they pay him, you better be ready to play because you have to make that determination early before that rookie contract ends up. You're going from like $9 million a year, maybe up to 10 with bonus and stuff, to 40 a year or 35.
When you look at 2 years, right? Joe Burrow's been in the league for 2 years. I could say, right, he's on the right path. I think that he still uses room for improvement, but he's on the right path. You could look at Herbert and say, yeah, that guy's on the right path. Very rarely does it take a quarterback 3 or 4 years to kind of step into form. The likelihood, if you're going to be a good QB, you show signs your first or your second year. And if you're not showing them in your second year, they're worried a bit about it. You even think about Josh Rosen, right? The guy went from being an 11th overall pick in the draft to the 10th overall pick in the draft to, oh yeah, I got traded for a 3rd round pick to be a backup, and the next year he was gone. They know a lot quicker than especially those quarterbacks. They know pretty quick if they're the right answer or not.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Grumpy. Let me ask you. Alexander's saying his lawyers called Flores the Rosa Parks of the NFL.
Good luck.
Claudette Mims. She was the actual Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was that's something that doesn't get taught in the history books. Claudette Mims is the actual lady that the real story of Rosa Parks happened to.
You're mistaken. You don't need to look it up. You're mistaken.
Continue, Grump.
Next comment, please.
B. Bean says, will Cincinnati or the Rams be in the Super Bowl in 2023? If not, which team has the best chance?
Cincinnati has a way better chance than the Rams. The Rams are built for today. They're an older team with a whole bunch of – they have no draft picks for the next – well, no, not none, but first, second round picks. They have none this year or next year. I don't think they have a first until 2024, as a matter of fact. They're in it to win it now. So the Cincinnati Bengals have a chance to be better.
I misremembered last name. It's Claudette Colvin. That was the original Rosa Parks. And Rosa Parks was that didn't gain enough traction. And Rosa Parks Claudette Colvin was the first lady it happened to, but neither here nor there. Okay. One of those little tidbits of history. And then Kaepernick. Oh no, he didn't lead him to a Super Bowl. It's like saying, I'm trying to find a comparison. It's like saying when Rex Grossman and the Chicago Bears went to the Super Bowl, it was Rex Grossman that led them to the Super Bowl.
No, Alexander's right there. He was the first that RPO quarterback was Kaepernick. He came in halfway through the season, and teams didn't know how to defend him. But after, like I said, they learned how to defend what he was doing, and that was the end of him because he could not grasp the offense. He was a run guy as opposed to a pass guy, good athlete, but he was what he was. Same player he was in Nevada.
Okay, you said led them. He only threw for 3,100 yards. Hold on. Hold on. What year did they go to the Super Bowl? Was it 2012 or 2013?
2012, I think.
Okay, he came in. He wound up starting 7 games, had 10 touchdowns, 3 picks. He was throwing for 100. Well, it's tough to tell. He wanted to throw him for 1,800 yards over a 7-game stretch.
Yeah, he was pretty good that year.
Okay, fair enough, Grumpy. Want to ask you though, Grump? We're here. Oh, hold on, we got a few here. It took Drew Brees 4 years.
Yeah, but it was a Brees and Rivers thing. I mean, Brees was not, he was a second-round draft pick. He wasn't drafted to be the starter.
You know what? Honestly, again, Drew Brees was a much better version of this, but let's just use Kirk Cousins as a similar example. Remember, they were drafted in the same year, too.
Yeah.
Was Brees drafted the same year as Rivers? Or the year before?
Maybe it was the year before. But
my memory goes hazy on that.
Yeah, it was so long ago. But here's the thing: he tore his shoulder. He was an unrestricted free agent. Dolphins wanted him. It was all about the Dolphins getting him as unrestricted free agent, and they passed. And he went to New Orleans, and the rest was history. I mean, just sometimes your personnel guys need to be better.
Again, it did take. I mean, Brees sat on the bench the first year, and the second 2 years were kind of not there. And the third year, he jumped on the scene, 27 touchdowns, 7 picks, and that's kind of where he had the ascension. B Bean says again, but it's much more likely that when you have a good quarterback, you find out in the first year or two than having to wait 4 years. The Drew Breeses are they're the aberration. They're not the commonality. That's not what you see on average.
Look at back then, even when Rodgers was drafted, guys sat on the bench behind starters for a few years to get training.
Yeah.
But that's not the case anymore because the money that everyone makes now is so much more than it was back then. It's all about money. It's all about salary cap space. Just different.
I'll let you read that, Grumpy. Who is Grumpy's greatest sports commentator of all time?
I'll just tell you, I think that's just subjective. I'm going to tell you who the most famous is. That's Howard Cosell. That's what I'll say.
And then he says, same for you, TJ, but Grumpy goes first. I don't know. I don't really have a sports commentator that I think is most famous. I don't know, Grumpy. I don't really know.
I think the older guys are better than the new guys. Guys who worked in radio to start, like the old baseball announcers were the best. Vince Scully, Mel Allen. That's going way, way, way back.
Who's Walter Cronkite? I hear his name thrown a lot on this podcast. Is he a sports podcast or was he a sports announcer? Walter
Cronkite was the anchor on the CBS Evening News.
Oh, well, there we go. Alexander says, TJ Grump, who do you guys think is the most clutch player in NHL history?
I'm going to go with Messier. I just think he was super clutch. It's hard
to avoid saying the same. What would I say? Maybe Sakic. He was pretty clutch.
Yeah, they didn't win a whole lot though. Okay. I can tell you who the greatest clutch player in NFL history is though. TB12.
Laughing my ass off. B Bean says that TJ. Yeah, Doc Emmerich or Howard Cosell.
Yeah, Doc Emmerich was good, but Howard Cosell was most famous.
Brees was in 2000. Or no, it must have meant Rivers was a 2003 draft.
Rivers was drafted the same year as Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger.
Yes, and I can't remember that year to save my life, but I see Brees, his first year with the San Diego Chargers was in 2001. Rivers was, my gosh. You got to be disappointed if you're a Chargers fan for years and years. I mean, like you had one Hall of Fame quarterback unable to win a Super Bowl. Let's see how it goes here with your next Hall of Fame quarterback, possibly, and Herbert. Still a long way to go.
Yeah,
he was. I know, still a long way to go.
Those breaks.
And think about it. Even Phillip Rivers sat on the bench his first 2 years. Wow. He didn't start his first 2 years in the league.
Oh, maybe Brees was the quarterback. That's what it was.
Brees was the quarterback. And they said, now time to move on from Brees, and we're going to put Rivers in, see what Rivers has.
Well, he hurt his shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, and Rivers was a really, really good quarterback for many years. So, I mean, Could they have done better? Could you imagine if they kept Breeze and traded? Well, Rivers wouldn't have much value, I don't think. But Grumpy, we're here towards the end of the show. Hold on, I got a few more. TJ Cronkite announced the death of JFK live.
Yep.
Oh.
A lot of guys. Huntley and Brinkley. See, my house, we watched Huntley and Brinkley on NBC News as opposed to Cronkite. We didn't watch Cronkite. I don't know the reason why. Don't ask me. It wasn't my decision. I was a kid. But it was Huntley and Brinkley.
John P. said
Ted Huntley and David Brinkley.
John P. says Howard Cosell, Don Meredith, and Frank Guilford.
That was still was not the original Monday Night Football crew, but certainly the most famous.
Alexander says no fan fight. You sent us a good fan fight, and there's going to be no fan fights that additionally air. Alexander, we're 2 hours in, so I'm like, we're saving that. We're putting that in the bag. We're putting that in the bag for Sunday's podcast. Okay. Fan fight, Alexander, was a good one too.
A lot of news tonight. I mean, this week.
I was about to say
we do have the NIL stuff. Jimbo Fisher came out and saying how people are jealous. USC
he lost a five-star recruit to LSU to Brian Kelly. I'm sick of, I don't know. I'm already done with the NIL. They need to find a way to restructure it or change it up a bit, because the free reign, it's like every single year. Imagine the NFL, except everybody signs a contract that they can negotiate and change anytime they want and negotiate new money deals anytime they want. It's nuts.
Yep. Here's the thing, TJ, you hit the nail on the head. You said that they're going to let it, the NCAA is going to let it go crazy until they say, we need you to step in and regulate.
And then they're going to go ahead and they're going to take a whole shit ton of power back. That's how those power grabs work like that, to say, hold on, we've got an allegation. They're going to talk about suing us. Well, hold on. You know what? They are in the infancy stage of having this new ability here that they can get paid on name, image, and likeness. We're going to let it go so crazy and out of sorts that they're going to be begging us to come back in. And when we do, we're going to come and sweep and take all this power back. So, yep, I'll be interested to see maybe a year or two more before that happens. B Bean says, thanks. Absolutely. Thank you. Good show. I appreciate it there, B Bean. Alexander saying, you guys are awesome, even though we don't agree on Tua, but I still love you show and I still love you guys. You're awesome. Great. The GOATs. Grumpy and TJ. Thank you, Alexander.
Flores should have got on the boat, Alexander. Flores should have got on the boat.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in as always. And Grumpy, what do you want to say before we wrap things up?
I just want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens, and even those who don't, from TJ and the Grumpy Old Man.
Absolutely, guys. Hope you have a great Thursday evening. Get ready for a fantastic Friday, and we'll see you on Saturday's show of the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. And we'll be back here Sunday evening at 8 o'clock. We got some good fan fights submitted there by Alexander and a lot of news to talk about. Make sure you tune in. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, like on Facebook, follow on Twitter. Thanks again, guys, and thank you, Grumpy Old Man.
My pleasure.
About to say, Grumpy, I'm waiting on you to say the my pleasure part, but thank you, guys.